That I think it's just made me extra intense about like getting people's names correctly.
It's
Yeah.
Kyla, right?
It's Kyla.
It's
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
It's not that
But
hard, but people think it's Kayla all the time. So it
I
seems to be a
see. Yeah.
struggle.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you're a little bit loud again.
Am
Should
I?
I like
I can drop
yeah,
myself more.
if you can, just because a little bit too much.
How about this? How's this sound?
Is perfect.
Perfect. Okay. Great. All right. We are live now. So
Hey, hello to the
introduce
people.
yourself. Yeah. Introduce yourself. Give so people know who you are.
So, my name is Anastastia. I'm from Ukraine, Kharkiv, which is one of the cities that was the most destroyed during this conflict war. The like call it conflict, I call it war, but some people call it conflict. So yeah, and I'm was forced sort of to escape from my city, and I'm now currently in Kiev, Ukraine's capital, and I have no intentions of leaving Ukraine at all since I'm doing a lot of volunteer work. All I can do, I cannot shoot. I don't know how to do that. So, as a soldier, I would be useless to my country. So, what I'm doing is I'm a volunteer. I pretty much try to raise money and to buy stuff for our soldiers and for other volunteer people. So stuff like medical supplies, protective vests, gear, all sorts of like power banks, equipment they may need, and even bought some drones the other day, which was pretty epic, I must say. But that's all thanks to Destiny and his community because they helped me raise way more money than I ever dreamed of. Let's put it like that. So all of that goes to our soldiers, and which I post on my Twitter, which
Okay.
I recently got. It's like a week since I started to use it. It's a cursed place, but what things I will do for the country are immeasurable, including getting Twitter
Yeah. I mean,
and
that's
talking to some crazy people.
so you're personally buying drones that you're then donating to the Ukrainian military.
Yeah, there is like an organization, Army of Drones, it's called, which they buy. So we give them money and they buy drones, and they
Okay.
bought quite a lot of those already.
Okay.
So more than 700, I think,
So if
which is
people
pretty.
want to support you that maybe haven't heard you before, could you drop a link in our chat so I can have that rotating
Oh,
while we
like my
chat?
Twitter or
Wherever they can go to donate if they want to just help out.
yeah. So I have a PayPal link in my Twitter bio,
Perfect.
and I am going to a minute try to find that cursed thing. I will do it with my phone. It'd be quicker. One moment.
I might be able, it's just on your profile. I'm looking at your profile. Here's my PayPal. Okay.
I'll send you a link with on Discord. A minute.
Perfect.
I'm like technologically inept, so sorry about that.
It's okay. I think I actually found the link already, so you're good.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. I sent it already, but it doesn't like show for some reason. Oh, now it is. In our chat, I sent it to you, like in Discord, our personal chat.
Right. Just updating things. So I know your electricity might get cut while we're chatting. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, but most likely it won't
Oh,
because they told me that it will happen in 2000, so like 8 p.m. I think. I always confuse those AMs and PMs. So
2000,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yes. So if it happened, it was supposed to happen already. So it didn't. It's already 2009. So I think we're good.
Okay.
And we but if it gets cut off and everything just turns like I was not bombed. It's just the electricity went off. So
Yeah.
sorry if that happens.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do about it, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I promise I will not blow up on stream, I swear. Is this better? I feel like I'm so bright on this camera. Is this better or worse or
you definitely are getting,
still?
it's decreasing your exposure, so we're seeing a little bit more color on your face if you'd like to see. I don't know if you have blush or anything on, so.
Oh, I think it will be nothing will be visible either way, and I don't have much, so um, that's awful. That's awful too. Ah, yes, we said with awful.
Perfect.
So yeah.
My favorite setting.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so we wanted to,
Yeah.
talk about some stuff. Let's talk about some stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess how are you doing today? Like, how are we feeling? Because it's 8 p.m. or 2000 for you. So how are you feeling today?
Mhm. So it's been a pretty chill day today. Not many like Iranian drones, as usual. This week has been a little bit, how should I say it? Not exactly the worst, but not the best, because they did not use that much missiles against us, but they do use those Iranian drones, and those we learned how to pretty much take down already. So the majority of them we take down, but some. Can I swear?
Yeah,
There's
go for
only
it.
one type of eel.
So
Okay.
some fuckers are
.eu
able
friendly
to,
stream
fly
hog.
in and explode stuff. They're like kamikaze drones, which means they're like suicide drones basically. So they l- hit something and blow up, which is their purpose.
Okay.
And yeah, so since they bought those from Iran, they attacked Kiev quite a lot of times, especially on the 10th of October. Many people were injured and died, and some other cities as well. So Nikolaev, Kharkiv, which is the usual, nothing new with Kharkiv there. But yeah, so today has been pretty chill. And the only thing that the blackouts all over the country, but that's expected because they damaged quite a lot of power stations in Ukraine during this like 10 days, which was the purpose of those drones to, pretty much make our lives very uncomfortable. So no light, no electricity, no heat. And Ukraine is not the
There's only
warmest
one
place
type
on
of
earth.
eel.
So
Okay.
it's
Dot.
gonna be a tough winter,
Yeah,
I
I
feel
was gonna
like.
say with the winter
Yeah,
coming.
so
What temperatures do you get down to? I'm Canadian, so I'm familiar with normal human metrics.
it's like we use Celsius, you use something
Yes.
else, or
I use Celsius as well
or
as a Canadian.
uh, yeah, oh good. So it's like maybe like minus 15,
Okay.
like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
around that.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So that's like
Depends. A couple winters have been like warmer than usual because global warming and shit. So, but it can be pretty cold. Like sometimes even up to or lower to as low as minus 20. But usually
okay.
it's around minus 5, minus 10.
Okay, so for the Americans that's like -4 to like 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Just so that we have that the
Mm.
conversion going on as well. Okay. So
Oh, a dog.
yes,
I,
a
yes,
puppy.
I saw a dog.
Or my husband
Oh.
crawling around depending on who you believe. So,
Oh, that's interesting. What
yeah.
games are you playing there?
Yeah, we're very kinky, what can I say?
Like
Um
husbands rolling around, but it's definitely a dog.
it's definitely a
I can
doggo.
see
Yeah, yeah, it's a
ears
little
and
doggo.
stuff. I miss my bunny.
What do you do in the blackouts? Like, what do you personally do?
Not much, Just it's pretty like strange, maybe for people who are not used to it, because the entire town is like completely dark, so no light, no nothing.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time in Kharkiv. I like travel from Kharkiv to Kiev, from Kharkiv to Kiev, back and forth to do my volunteer job. And Kharkiv is mostly dark, so after curfew you won't see a single light anywhere.
Okay.
And it has been like that for, well, no, 8 months already. So
Are people using
I'm
flashlights, like lamps? Like, how are they?
yeah, stuff like you need
Candles.
to use like something that does not produce too much light, because there is this we are supposed to light mask, which is like you don't show Russians where the light is on,
Okay.
so not to correlate their fire basically. So we
Okay.
the city should be dark if you don't want to like get blown up, which is nobody wants
Interesting.
that. So yeah,
That's
some people
interesting.
neglect
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it because They are just tired of the shit, which I guess makes sense. But you shouldn't do that, because not only you are putting yourself in danger, but you putting your neighbors in danger, and they did not sign up for your, for you not following the rules and getting blown up. So I'd say that's pretty important to do, which is
Yeah.
why even in Kiev I'm kind of cautious about the light. But in areas that are very close to Russia, to occupied areas of Ukraine, we have suffered terribly because of the artillery. So
Mm-hmm.
they would just launch artillery at, like everywhere, basically, residential areas, like, and that's why you shouldn't like neglect sirens, air raid sirens, and yeah, they send spy drones, which is like they cannot like attack, but they take footage of the city. So
Mm-hmm.
if the lights are on, then those
Then
fucking
they'll
drones,
know.
they like can see stuff.
That's
So yes, a
interesting.
missile,
That's such an
yeah.
inverse relationship with light and dark that most people have. Like, have you found that when it's dark out, do you feel safer typically? Or because a lot of times, like if things are pitch black, it's kind of spooky, especially for city dwellers who are not really used to ever being in pitch black darkness.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if like when it's dark for you, is that like a cue of like I'm safer right now because like I can't be seen?
Mm, Really, because when it's dark, it means it's night, and night means shelling. So
Oh,
they
night
shell us
always
much
means shelling.
harder in the night. Yeah.
Why
So
is
they
that?
sometimes there are. I think it's just a terror tactic, basically.
To keep you
So
guys
you
up.
have to. Yeah. So I haven't slept for 8 months, which is kind of silly to say, but it's true. Like most people have not have a normal sleep for long time, especially in areas like Kharkiv, which you have like 3, 5, sometimes up to 7 air raids during the night,
Right.
and you just either sleep like in the basement or in the corridor somewhere, so not to get up, or you sleep and you're like bed, but then the siren and you run to the corridor, you like wake everyone up in the room, and you say go to the corridor,
Yeah.
and we were sitting like that, like that.
Yeah.
So, and you just wait, and then it's boom, and you're like, oh, it's good that it's not me. But then you think, well, it was someone else probably.
Mm,
So this feeling you can kind of get cheerful that you did not blow up, but then you think not too cheerful because someone else did, and
right.
stuff like that. So right now it's much better, because after, if you know about that, counteroffensive have been pretty effective, Ukrainian counteroffensive. So we
Mm-hmm.
retook like pretty much entirety of the Kharkivska Oblast. Oblast is like a district, a region, so not a city, but an entire like region.
Yeah.
So Russians have been pulled back, and they cannot longer get to us with artillery. So the shelling is not as intense as it was in June, in July,
Yeah.
in March, like stuff like that. And
Mm,
mostly they just use Iranian drones now and missiles from Belgrade, which is a Russian city,
mm-hmm.
which is close to Kharkiv territorially. And they just every night pretty much they used to launch missiles out of Belgrade.
Right.
So you will get like notification on your phone, those fucking missiles from Belgrade, everyone, exactly like that, with swearing from our official groups, which I actually enjoy, very
Yeah.
Ukrainian. So the C word, I don't know if you're allowed to say it, but like CUNT, like CUNT.
I'm on Twitch, so probably better not to.
Yeah. So you know the word, right?
Yeah.
So that's the word. And you like those beam that word, and I fly and go hide. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so you're like, all right, I'm running, like, and you run and you hide, and it's all like a very terrible game.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Dot.
So I guess
Yep.
one thing that I tell me about the Ukrainian people. Like, what is their personality like? Like, if I ran into a Ukrainian, like, what are you guys known as? So, like, Canadians are known as being like polite, a little bit passive aggressive, and for like apologizing all the time.
Sorry,
Um,
can I drink?
yeah, go for it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell. I tried. It was not imported for such a long time. And
Yeah.
now it's back again, and I'm super happy. It was my like favorite drink.
What is it? Is it like a beer or is it a cider?
It's a
Yeah. Yeah.
cider.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super happy. It's from Litva, which is
Okay.
I think you say like Lithuania or Latvia, you say in
Yep.
English,
Yep.
whatever,
Yep.
Baltic countries.
Yeah.
So yeah, about that cider aside.
Cider
So
aside.
about the Ukrainian people, well, things that come to mind is that people are very resilient, very strong in
Hmm.
terms of they can deal with all sorts of shit and don't blink. So we are not easily offended. We're pretty chill. I think very humorous people as well. So people like to, I'd say dark humor probably in the terms of like Western
Yeah.
Western countries.
It
Yeah,
seems like
yeah. So
resilience and dark humor tend to go hand in hand. I find like a lot of the most resilient
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah.
tend to be they've managed it through humor a lot of the time.
You know what? That actually makes kind of like perfect sense because if you've been through some shit, then you kind of like treat um, situations that are not so bad kind of with a lot with laughter, and those that are bad with laughter as well. So
Yeah.
you have to kind of like.
Mhm.
I always say like people cope with alcohol like vodka, beer, and shit,
Yep.
and they cope with dark humor.
You know,
So that's Ukraine.
it's not a bad coping strategy to
Basically.
be honest. It's pretty healthy.
Yeah, yeah. So people go to psychologists like in the West, and we just, talk shit and drink. That's about it.
Talk shit and drink with your psychologists. Your psychologists have
Sometimes
a
with our
solid
yeah,
setting of kiss ciders ready to go.
yeah. Some I actually my sister is actually a psychologist, so
Oh,
I
cool.
suggested to her sometime to do a drinking sessions, but she said it's kind of unprofessional, which I think is a waste. Is a waste. She should be a drinking counselor.
Yeah,
So
I do think our ethics would bar that, but that's okay. I shouldn't
mhm.
say our, I'm not a psychologist, but yeah, psychological ethics in
Boring.
general will definitely bar that.
I thought
Um,
you were a psychologist. Am I
I'm
like confusing something?
no, I'm a licensed addictions counselor.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
it's a bit different, right?
Yeah. And then the other title that
Oh,
nobody can remember is I'm also a psychometrist, which means that I have like,
what's that?
yeah, exactly. Psychological evaluation. So most people are like super confused by that,
Oh,
which is
I see.
super fair. It's like less than a master's. So yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Just, you know, I
sister
don't have a PhD or anything. So yeah.
in Ukraine you kind of have to be a psychologist to be
Yeah.
a counselor or to have like therapy or
Yeah.
so my sister has a PhD, but she like works with children mostly.
Okay.
So, you
Cool.
know, also with adults, but mostly with like children,
Yeah.
teenagers. To be fair, not children, like teenagers.
So
Those are children, but
yeah.
older
Base
children.
it seems like based on some of the stuff I've seen you in, because I watched all the content that you guys sent me, um, you seem to have always been kind of like the um, I don't know if you know much about like books. I almost see you as like a Katniss type individual. Like you've always been kind of like the rebellious, strong woman who's like fighting for her people in her country.
No,
Like I remember you mentioning that like you were like protesting at like 19. Like you were politically involved and aware and like fighting for rights by 19.
yeah.
Did you start younger than that? Or when did you get really
Uh,
politically involved?
so Katniss is a bit of a stretch, I think, but thank you.
You're not good at
Yeah,
archery?
yeah, you're not good at archery, like at all. Unfortunately, it might be useful right now, but
That's true.
But yeah, in terms of like a revolutionary stuff, then that's true. Yeah, revolution began when I was 19 and ended when I was 20.
Hmm.
So this is the period I participated in Maidan revolution. And this is not like specifically, it just happened, and I participated. It's not
Yeah.
like the age matter. It's just the event happened, and you just do your part, I guess. So before that, I was not as I had opinions and stuff. I always wanted Ukraine to, be part of maybe go more to ally itself with the Western countries and part of the European Union maybe in the future. I always was very interested in countries that had democracy, human rights, better human rights, which was always as a LGBT person I was interested in. And for personal reasons and just, in general.
Hmm.
So those countries seem to me always have been the best conditions for people in Europe and in the United States, Canada, in the West, what we broadly say as the West.
Mm.
Some also why Australia is included in the West. It's not in the West.
It's
Okay, it's another topic.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all the Commonwealth based
yeah,
countries and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So I understand, but just kind of silly. It's not like there,
yeah.
not
It's
in the
technically
West.
Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So those countries always kind of like wanted saw those things as free speech, democracy, human rights as valuable, as something to strive to, I
Hmm.
guess. And so, but I wasn't like very, very into it until Maidan, which, yeah. And the
Okay.
reason why I pretty much started to participate in a revolution was not because I wanted to us to join Europe, particularly. I started to be invested in that later on. But at that time, it was more about removing a tyrant and fighting against injustice and tyranny and corruption in our country, which was the main motivator for pretty much most people. So
Hmm.
some people saw, yeah, let's go to Europe. Some were like, fuck Europe, we will be independent. Some people on Maidan were like, well, I'm not sure, maybe we should like remove our president, but still be kind of like friendly with Russia. So people had different opinions,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
I think is fine. But most of us were agreed upon one thing, that we will not allow a person to restrict our rights and to fuck us basically in the ass, and we will just take it.
Yeah.
Which exactly why we went to the streets, because maybe people don't know, but the revolution started because of the Yanukovych, our president at the time, which it was a total Russian puppet. We just didn't understand it that well at the time.
Hmm.
But yeah, so he pretty much decided to change the course entirely and move into ally with Russia
Okay.
instead of European Union, which most of the country wanted at the time. So like 60 something percent.
Mm.
And people, especially young people, students, so like 19, 20-year-olds like me, they were like enraged, and then they went in Kiev to protest like peacefully with like banners and stuff, to like, what the fuck, we were supposed to ally with the European Union and make strides to be accepted by European Union because we are barbarians and they don't want us there, but we will try.
Yep. Yep.
So, and yeah, so they went to the streets and under his order were beaten to a pulp, those students.
Mm.
So brutally, exceptionally brutally. So the entire country pretty much saw that and felt like, fuck that guy. And that's the revolution. The biggest Euro revolution started with students getting beaten up, which
Yep.
kind of a classic, I think.
It is kind of a classic, isn't it? Would you say that
Yeah.
you're, because I imagine if you're Ukrainian now, it's pretty much impossible to not be somewhat political. It's kind of, a little
Yeah.
bit in your face. But when you like kind of started when you were 19, were you a more political person than anyone else? Or was it, again, one of these things where like it was being thrust in your face? It was like a do or die type situation. You didn't have the privilege to
I
not be
think
political.
I think not everyone participated, which is important, and I did. So that's the difference, I guess. And yeah, many people supported Maidan, but they did not like physically participated. So did not put their own lives at risk.
Yeah.
Did not went to freeze their ass each day in the winter to on the streets. So,
Hmm.
so it's not like everyone participated, but it was quite big. I think statistics show that it's 8 million people participated overall physically,
Yeah.
at least at some point.
Yeah.
And it was like the entire winter, so pretty long. And 8 million out of 45 at the time. Now it's way less, the population, but 45 at the time million people, and 8 of them participated, which is pretty big because sociology shows that physical participation in revolutions, it generally like under 10% of the population. So
Right.
like 10% of, not more than 10% of the population actually does the revolution, so like physically.
Yeah.
And it makes sense but I wasn't like, I think, particularly like more political than anyone else. Not really. Like I had my, like I said, my opinions, and I barely was able to vote at the time because after 18, So yeah. So for me, it was a fight against injustice, and then in the process of it I learned a lot of history, politics, and sociology. I became more interested in that,
Hmm.
and discovered all sorts of nasty shit that happened to Ukraine, to Ukrainians in centuries that I did not know, because they were either covered up by our education, by Russian propaganda, because I lived in the east. Kharkiv is very like eastern city, so very close to Russia,
Hmm.
Russian speaking city. I'm Russian speaking, so that's why we were always in this cultural space of Russia.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
because not because we chose to, just because it was like that. So there
What
was
was
process of Russification.
what was covered up in
What?
your education?
Well, stuff like how they genocide
I was gonna say
us
like
a couple
Holodomor.
times. Yeah. Oh my God, you know about that thing.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
people don't know about that. So
I
yeah, so
know
I
it's weird,
read.
right?
Yeah, yeah, and not weird. People deny us that we were harmed terrifically all the time. Yeah, they still do today. So,
That's
uh, yeah,
true. It's just weird to me how we like pick and choose the genocides that it seems like we care about. Right? Like,
yeah, and that one was a big one, I'd
yeah,
say, for a million people.
yeah.
Yeah, so so that one, Soviet Union repression, there's a term called executed Renaissance, which is a term used to describe how Soviet Russians uh, literally killed poets, writers, all like the elite of Ukraine who were like producing art, but
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
fighting against their oppression. So executed those people, people who were deported, people who were sent to Gulag, which is like a concentration
Yep.
camp Soviet style. Yeah, so all of that shit. I My parents never like particularly told me that Soviet Union was bad, but they tried to let me chance to make my own opinions, basically.
Okay,
So
interesting. Interesting. So
when
was
I
like the
did,
Gulag Archipelago the book? Was that like that feels like something that would be like central to like Ukrainian education system? Like
no,
not at
nobody
all.
talked about that. You were
Interesting.
not even allowed until 2006, I think, or four maybe, of either 4 or 6. So even did not even consider a genocide ourselves.
Hmm.
So we have exceptionally like pro-Russian view on everything. And our president at the time, Yushchenko, was one of the first presidents who were not pro-Russian.
Right.
And he was trying to actually to let us see how much our language suffered, how much we were oppressed, and people knew that back in the day, but we just so happened to forget it, I say.
Right.
And this happens because of the after Holodomor, we had World War II, and people were just so tired of getting killed, genocided, and tortured that they pretty much gave up on the fight.
Hmm.
So all the resistance movements in Ukraine died out. Physically died out, but also like psychologically, people were way too tired. And this happens to Ukraine like all the time. Every like 50 years, every single resistance person gets killed by Soviets, by Russia, and then they just do whatever you want, just annihilate our language, do anything, just let us live, just let us live, and we will like succumb to your every whim. And this is unfortunately what happened in the 50s and 60s after
Hmm.
World War II, which is understandable. But that's exactly when that myth about brotherly nations appeared. You can like trace it. It pretty much was done by Stalin. There's conversation about that lefties use all the time in Western places, that we are like brotherly nation. It only appeared in the 50s, so
Mm.
it was after World War II, kind of like a mechanism to unite people when they really wanted that unification after Nazi shit. And yeah, so he used that to pretty much to create this myth about some kind of like equality or something, or like brotherly connection with Russia that was always an imperialist and oppressor to Ukraine during Russian Empire times and then Soviet
Mhm.
Union times. So it's centuries long shit. And, things like that. Then I learned about a lot of stuff that I didn't even know, like I said, that all of that, and I was completely like shocked by that knowledge. And also, of course, things like Valuev Circular or MSQ CAS, were laws, like literally on the book. You can read them on Wikipedia if you like.
Yeah.
This was a prohibition of Ukrainian language.
Mm,
So
mhm,
straight
mhm.
up, like you would not allow in Russian Empire, by the way, not Soviet Union. So you would not allowed to publish books in Ukrainian. You were not allowed to teach children in Ukrainian in schools. And then afterwards, like MSQCAS was that you cannot publish anything in Ukrainian. So not even novels, poems, no nothing.
So,
So people like only,
sorry, how old
yeah.
were you when you started realizing, like, holy shit, like, I've literally been part of the propaganda machine. Like, my education was in part of this propaganda. How old were you
Say
when you
like
realized this?
1920, like Maidan periods of time.
What was that like for you?
Yeah.
Because that must have been a radical shift in, like, even your own personal identity with your Ukrainian ethnicity. Because all through education, you had learned kind of one
Yeah.
way.
So I would say that it was not such a big like cultural shock as it could have been, because I was never very like pro-Russian.
Okay.
So I was never very. I had no opinion of them. I
Mhm,
didn't
mhm,
care.
mhm.
A country. Who cares? Like a neighboring country, whatever. So despite the fact that I have a lot of relatives there, like 100+ relatives actually, but I'm a Greek ethnically, so we have this huge ass families, and a lot of them live unfortunately in Russia. So yeah, that's another story. But I never was like very. I saw what it is, Soviet Union, in terms of like it was a shitty place to be due to communism, planned economy, oppression, violation of human rights. All of that I knew, so it was not surprise to me. But I
Mhm,
just
mhm.
never knew the amount of suffering that was inflicted specifically on Ukrainians. That
Right.
I did not knew. So I kind of viewed it as we all have been in this shit show, basically,
Okay.
like Soviet Union, right? All of us together, right? So all nations.
Yeah.
But then I realized that not really, not really. So it was actually Soviet Russia who was a ruler of this shit show,
Yep.
and the others were just vassals, or I don't know how to say it, vassali, which is like underlings, like like subjugated.
Yep.
So that's yeah. So I never saw it like as this good thing or something, and my parents had no nostalgia for this period. They hated it. They just did not like impose their views on me and my sister that much. But when we started to participate in Maidan and I started to ask them questions, my father was very eager then to tell me all sorts of shit he hated about
Okay.
Russia and
Yep.
Soviet Union, but only after I showed like
The interest.
interested in it.
The
So
interest.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think so.
So did it spur, cuz I feel like there must have been emotion, was it just anger, like an emotional response?
It was like more like I was just mind blown at first. I did not experience that much anger because I did not, how to say it, understood the correlation, I guess, between modern day Russia and that. So I didn't like have someone to be angry at. I thought at the time, right now.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's Soviet Union, but it's kind of like Russia Empire. It was all, yes, of
Yeah, it was
course,
like the
genocide.
past.
But the past, who cares? Like let's forgive everything and just move on.
Right.
But then yeah, but then,
But
but
now
then
we're
I
here.
realized, yeah, but now we're here, and we were here since 2000 2014.
Mhm.
We are not here just now. We are here for 8 years. And also in the process of Maidan revolution, I realized how fucked they were. So, because I started to watch their TV for the first time. And I
Mm.
was like, what the fuck are they saying? Right. So my relatives would call us and tell us some ridiculous shit about Maidan. So like Nazis burning cities up, like, and I was like, am I that Nazi that burns cities up? What the heck?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
where are the Nazis? So I was like, what is going on? So they must like take this information from somewhere, right? So I started to, and they would say like, it shows our TV like shows this, and I was like, and I watched, and my God. this was like Goebbels, we say, but Goebbels, I think you say, levels of propaganda, like in
Mm.
the Nazi regime.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Levels.
so yeah, and I was like, whoa. So not only it was entirely made up, and there were like 5% of the truth, the rest is like entirely insanity. And I not only was I surprised by that, but also the sheer like amount of it. So I think there was statistics that showed that 85 or something percent of Russia media coverage at the time was about Maidan Ukraine, so Nazis is in Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
and supposedly Nazis, of course, and then America, Western degeneracy, which they mean LGBT mostly, but also like women that are like promiscuous, like shit like that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what they will like show on their TVs all the time. And you're like, is nothing going on in Russia? It's a big place. Why the fuck are you covering like everything that has nothing to do with you? But then I realized that it has something to do with them. And what it was is that we were slipping out of their fucking grasp again.
Mm.
And they were starting to prime their population to be acceptable, to accept what is going on right now,
Right.
basically. So
Yes.
they decided to, okay, right, so we are going to do annexation of Crimea. We will try to take Donbass. We will try to Kharkiv. My city was. They made quite a lot of attempts to do that stuff, to sponsor separatist movements, to send our military there, like, but not announce setting out our military there.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we need to do for that? We need to prime the population to be of maximum support of that.
Yeah, it's interesting when
So yeah,
people talk about war, right? I think everyone thinks about like bombs and like the physical aspects of war, bombs, guns, injuries, death. And I feel like we often don't think about like before, like as the wheels of war are turning, there's this massive psychological thing that's going on as well throughout the entire time. I mean, obviously like human
yeah,
psychology is fundamentally what's driving this war in large part, because it's
yeah.
humans doing it. Um, how
Well, to
has
be fair, they used already existing biases and
yeah.
hate, so it
Hmm.
was not like taken out of nowhere. So they were pretty salty at us already. So it worked, and it also was carefully laid down on already existing fascist kind of like tendencies they had. Now it's full-blown fascist country, but at the time it was not. But they used those. Like we are the superior race, we are like Slavic chats, the rest suck, so we are the main shit. We are like Ukrainians, they are not people even, they're like their language is spoiled Russian, it's literally what they say, so like deformed Russian, if you will. So they're like not even a language, the nation does not exist, they're like their culture sucks, everything about it is awful, stupid, and inferior. So this was already the foundation.
Hmm.
And then on that foundation they layered another, and so this is what you get. So when I saw that, I knew that this shit will land us here at some point
Yeah.
where we are now. And I'm still kind of salty because many people I knew, especially in eastern Ukraine, just didn't take it as seriously as they should have.
Mm.
So nothing that we could have done, obviously, but at least to be like prepared. So for many people, still till this day, this was a surprise
Right.
that they would, what they did. So even in 2014, but now especially, of course, because it's all out like war invasion.
Yeah.
And for me it wasn't, because I already figured out what was happening at the time, and quite a lot of people did, but not all. And I had some like fights with my friends trying to, like, come on, see what for things. If it's your neighbor that has a giant military that is known for causing wars and annexation and annexing territories in Georgia and Moldova prior to this, which are two countries they did the same kind of stuff to
Hmm.
as well
Hmm.
to us. Like, so they are known for that shit. My mother was and father were born in Georgia, so I was more invested in that war than many people here in Ukraine war, because just my parents were from this country, so they like cared about it. So they saw the coverage of it, not from Russian side but actually from Georgia side.
Hmm.
So they did it quite a lot. They also have a giant history of trying to eliminate Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian identity. It's nothing new, and they did it already a couple of times. So the entire reason why the East speaks Russian is because of Russification.
Yeah.
So the language was actively destroyed. They did this in Belarus as well, which like maybe like I don't know, like maybe 16, maybe 18% speaks the language. So it's
Still.
barely alive, that language.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is something they did. And so if that kind of a neighbor starts to scream, you are not people and you actually are Russians and we have all the right to do whatever the fuck we want with you, you should be so fucking afraid. You should be so prepared because this is what will happen eventually. And it did.
Right.
So for me, it was not a surprise, unfortunately. I already knew what we were dealing with even in 2014.
So in 2014,
So
when you're like
yeah.
fighting with friends to be like, wake up, like this is an actual serious threat. Did that cause like strains in your relationships at all? Like what was that
Yes, of
experience like for
course.
you?
Some people, not only mine, but many people who I know, like who in my parents as well, who was supportive of Maidan, faced very aggressive, like, you know, aggressive, how to say that in English, like pretty
Persecution?
much had huge fights with everyone who were like pro-Russian at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So people did not understand what was happening. I would like to say for the people in the back, which are leftists primarily, and so most people supported Maidan in
Right.
Kharkiv.
Yeah.
Fuck off. But at the same time, there were of course were people who were like very much into this whole, as we say, like Russian propaganda, and they also had this as what we call syndrome Malorosa, which is like a syndrome of Little Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Dylan told us talk about it. I think Dylan Burns, who I met here, and I showed him like all sorts of stuff here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so he is he. We talked with him about it, and it's this syndrome is basically when you are ashamed of yourself of being a Ukrainian. So you were made ashamed. So pretty much you were told for pretty much decades that Ukrainian language is rural, is not intelligent. You sound like a dum dum basically when you speak it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Soviet Union you would not get a job if you did not speak Russian. So you were, it was not prohibited like it was in Russian Empire, like I told you, but it was like soft discrimination
You're
basically.
shamed. Yeah.
So people yeah, yeah, so people like socially like pressure you to, you know, abandon the language and your culture as well. So many people grew up like that and their parents taught them that, so they felt like this internalized like shame of being Ukrainian, and they wanted to ally with the greater culture, which is Russia, of course.
Right.
So especially when you have like this problem of so speaking the same language and being in the same cultural like sphere of influence, so
Mm-hmm.
watching their TV, you know, stuff like that. And if you watch Russian TV, it's pretty much guaranteed you will be brain dead in a couple of years. So that's what happened to a bit of a number of people here as well in Ukraine. So we like were forced to cut the ties basically with these people,
Right. Have
and
they
quite fun
changed their
actually.
tune yet? Like these people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got so many like messages from people like, "Oh my God, I was like such an imbecile. I'm so sorry. I I was wrong." But you know, so they called me like radical and stuff, you know, and I was like, "No, no, no. It's it's common sense. It's not radical. When your neighbors yell and you're not people, prepare to get fucked." And yeah, so this is yeah, the amount, of course, there are some crazy people everywhere. So, you know, like some fascists, some like
Mm-hmm.
far craziest in the countries. But when it's like the entire narrative showed on the national TV is yelling at you about
I
turning
don't
you
really
into
watch
nuclear
live
dust,
streams, but
and
here's my
you're like,
crime for being ultra
whoa,
based on every
you
time
know,
I see you
Mm-hmm.
on
and
a
yeah.
ball. Also,
Also, the
this
relatives
Ukrainian
kind
lady
of
is
showed
super
me how
based as
crazy
well.
things were at the
Carry
time
on.
because I would tell them, like, you know me, right? You know my mother, you know my family. We're not some random like people. We tell you this is what's going on. We show you like on the phones what is going on. We show you the reality, and you just deny it and choose to believe your fucking TV. And this is like the level of you know like propaganda that should scare you
Yeah.
at some point, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's the same still. So when my father was killed, so by artillery, by a shell.
Mm-hmm.
So when my mother talked to our relative in Russia, who is her aunt, I pretty much asked her. I was like, "Mom, please don't talk with these people. It just doesn't like not now. No, it's not the time. Like your husband like was blown to pieces in front of your eyes. Maybe just no Russian relatives for now. Just please."
Yeah.
Well, and she was like, "Yeah, yeah, all right," but she still talked to them because maybe she wanted like some support, or maybe she just thought that maybe now they will at least like drop the bullshit if anything. But the aunt pretty much said first thing she said was there a military base there in my father's yard in the garden.
Right.
So
Yeah, I can see.
mom, mom,
I can see how that
my
like
mom,
hurts you and probably destroyed your
yeah.
mom. Yeah.
Well, I would say like destroyed, but she was like, well, I guess nothing to be done with these people.
Yeah.
So she was like, this was like the moment when she knew that all her efforts are. I dropped those efforts in 2015, honestly. So
Yeah.
good on her, I guess, for trying. But yeah, it was the moment when she was like, well, I guess that's about it, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
We have some relatives that are okay. So out of like 100 people, I have a really cool uncle who understands. My favorite uncle. He was always my favorite uncle, and he remains my favorite uncle. He understands perfectly what is happening, and he also is always incredibly ashamed of even being in that country. So disappointed in everything, distraught, and just
mhm.
tough for him for sure. And from my relatives, out of 100, they're like maybe like 10 who are not insane, which is nice, I guess. But this shows you the statistic, I guess, on the
Mhm.
macro, on the micro level, not on macro, but like on a little scale, which
Yeah.
is about the same percentage of Russians who are not insane in Russia as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
maybe 20 if I'm charitable.
I want to make
So
sure that I say like I'm really sorry. I remember hearing about your father passing. It's been how many months has
thank
it
you.
been?
It was 10th of June.
10th of June. Okay. So it's been a couple of months. How is your family adjusting to that?
Um, You know what I told you about resilient Ukrainians?
Yes.
So we're all right, I guess. And it's you have to like this situation right now. Everybody says the same in Ukraine is not the time for tears right now. So the time would be like maybe sometime, I don't know. But when we win, when we defend ourselves, when we have peace again, when someone who the entity a state and a country who tries their best to destroy us will be defeated, then is the time to think about stuff. Right now you don't need to mop about. You need to like pull yourself together and continue the work for to help your soldiers, to help our guys, and they are what stand in between us and annihilation,
Yeah.
basically. So
What does your
it needs to be.
sister think of the no, it's not time for tears?
She agrees, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she might be a psychologist, but she's a Ukrainian psychologist, so badass. I'm joking. It's just she understands this very well. She herself is a person, of course, not just a psychologist. So
Yeah.
she feels the same. It's like you cannot let yourself like mop about. It's not the time. And yeah, so just what would I do? Like lie in my bed and like mop? Nah, we need to do stuff. And this also helps when you do stuff and
Hmm.
you like you have work, you have job, you have like stuff to do, you have volunteer work, you have like work to be a representative of your country as well, and you just that's what you should do.
Hmm.
Be useful, don't be useless.
Right.
And yeah, and but it is of course hard, especially for my mother, because she not only because she of course like knew him for 38 years,
Yeah.
and other than that she was also there in the house, so she experienced kind of it in a way that we didn't, me and my sister. So
Right.
she was this was like a little like two floors building, like two floors house, private house, and with a yard and with a garden. And my father was standing on the balcony, and my mother was inside the house. So she survived. She only got like scratches and a little bit of a hearing problem in one ear,
Okay.
because it's unimaginably loud.
Hmm.
That so and yeah, I heard the closest was from me was 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure like in miles, which that be, but that was like exactly in her, house. So
Yeah.
2 kilometers is like maybe like I don't know, like 20-minute walk or something, like
So the artillery
uh,
dropped like right on your parents' house.
in the yard, yes,
In
yeah,
the
yeah.
yard.
So not on the house, but in the garden.
Right.
So there's like the garden, and there's this like the balcony here.
Okay.
So the whole entire wave of the shells of the artillery went straight up to my father.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and destroyed the house as well, of course.
Yeah.
So pretty much the entirety of the house was destroyed. My mom got rubbles on her, and she like got like kind of like a concussion. But then she stood up, and then she started to call for him, and went to the balcony.
And found him. Yeah.
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 Um.
Did she
Yeah.
move
So the body
away?
was.
Like, did she move away from her home, or where is she living now?
She's here with me in
Okay.
Kiev. We're like staying in my father's childhood friend apartment. His family moved to France, and he's now like living in another place
Yeah.
as well. And he suggested that we, stay here for a while, which is nice because paying for rent is pretty tough right now.
Yeah. No
So we
kidding.
are like only paying for like water, gas, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm,
Has the
yeah.
community really pulled together? Because I imagine in a time like this, it would either divide a nation or bring it together. More often, it brings it together. Have people been really like? It sounds like very
Yes.
communally supportive, right? Like, oh, like you don't have a place to stay, live at my apartment. It's fine.
Yes. People are amazing. That's all I can say. So pretty much, I have not felt this type of like unity since revolution, since Maidan, and it was the first time then when I felt like what it feels like to be a nation, And now it's even like that, but it's like 1,000 times stronger, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Because now, at the time, it was a unity of maybe like 60% of people, right? But now it's a unity of 95% of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, of course, amazing the work people do. So pretty much everything is like on the back of volunteers. People just for seven all day every day work to do anything they can to support the fundraisers, to support the military. So your regular day would be like you get your pay, which is like maybe like $300-400 United States dollars, and you like see for how much can I survive, let's count, and it'd be like 200. The rest goes to the army.
Right.
So that's your average Ukrainian,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, pretty much everybody volunteers in some way. So there's that.
Wow.
And yeah, so we know that soldiers defend us, so we want to defend them as best as they could, because people sometimes like make this like the army is like very separate, but it's not. It's my best friend, it's someone's brother, it's someone's father, it's someone's husband, it's someone's son. So these are the people, just the people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
daughter. We have and wife. We have women fighting as well, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty much quite a big number, as I found out, comparatively to other countries. So
Has there been any like communal like? Sometimes like you'll hear like really interesting stories come out of like situations where like communities pull together and do like regular singing or potlucks or like some sort of like both morale boosting and like community cohesion activities. Has there been anything that you've participated in that like has spontaneously occurred, like singing or dancing or just communal food or something like that?
it's just drink and hate on Russia.
Yeah.
It works as well,
Yeah.
But I'm joking. Some people became like more religious, maybe. Some people like started to visit like churches, or maybe or something like that. Maybe pray more or something like that. I'm an atheist, so I don't do that. But I know that many people do that. I actually have this line thing that I was forced to wear, which is like I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty weird down, but it's like an
Those.
oberek we call it. It's like a little bracelet basically that supposed to protect me from getting blown up. I'm not sure how well it does its job, but my mom started to, make this and give them to the soldiers after what happened, and also to
Okay.
her friends and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not like I don't like particularly believe in that, but if it makes you feel better, then be a grown up and wear a bracelet your mom gave you,
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember listening to, I forget who you were talking to. You referred to
Anastasia, I have a 2-week
Russia
old
as
daughter.
being
I've
like
been
the
telling her
orcs
your stories
from
every night.
Lord of the
I'm sorry
Rings,
for your
Yeah,
which I thought was really
yeah, that's really
interesting.
cool.
Ukraine.
Yeah, I
They have
really
good
like
people.
the interplay of literature and psychology. Like I find it extremely interesting. Um, if Russia is the orcs or like the army of Sauron, what role are you is Ukraine? Like, do you see yourselves as like the
So we are
humans?
like the man that stand between the, or like is like what was Aragorn's place? How was it called?
Oh, you're testing
Uh,
my. I'm not a Lord of the Rings buff, so
yeah. So like this is like there's like the elves, right? So we call the elves the Europe. We joke around. So
okay.
Europe is the elves.
Yeah.
So like yeah, I think you understand why. So and we are like the humans that stand between this like so there was this character Boromir and his brother Faramir, and they like pretty much their kingdom was suffering the most from the Mordor because it was very close to the border,
Yeah.
and Russia is Mordor, and we are that. Minas
Okay.
Tirith was the city, right? I remembered. So this was the city that
Minas
was like
Tirith. Yeah.
very close. Yeah, yeah. So this is pretty much what we are. So we like this like buffer between elves and the orcs,
Mm.
and yeah, and the reason why we are like love Tolkien is something like people in Ukraine really relate to, I think.
Yeah.
So the stories of Tolkien are they just do something, to us, I guess.
Yeah.
So
It makes
maybe
sense. It's like this
maybe
image of like the encroaching darkness, kind of like coming into your land and like trying to like take over and like essentially like annihilate
yes,
you. And like you
yeah,
were standing against that.
yeah. So this is like the story of oh, not only that, but something I always like admired in Lord of the Rings is because is not only the men that are with weapons, like the soldiers who fight, won. Um, Frodo did, right? And Sam. So the little people who went on their little legs to the Mount Doom and thrown the ring,
Mm-hmm.
So this is about that everyone came together, right? So like Legolas was an elf, and Gimli was a gnome, like a dwarf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dwarf. So pretty much like many people came together to do this thing, but also just uh, those who are not capable of fighting still uh, made a huge impact on the story. So it's about a bravery, It's about supporting each other. So Frodo would not get anywhere without Sam, right? So Sam was just a gardener. So like, your regular dude, but he was the one who carried like Frodo on his back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like I think that's what's the best in the stories. Not only just the fight of evil and good, but that even the smallest of people
Yeah.
can change history, can change world for the better.
There
So
there are
this is, I
thousands of
think,
different types of heroes, right? Like not all heroes need to be
mhm,
like brandishing a sword and running
yeah.
into battle.
And in Tolkien, in his time, I think it was quite innovative. I'd say, like a very like interesting because you wouldn't call like hobbits your regular the Dachshund alpha male hero, right? So they
Right.
are like looking like children, like pretty much like laughing stocks at some point, like for many other people, but they ended up being the ones who impacted the story the most, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's like the scene at the end. If you like saw the movie when everyone they're like bowing to Aragorn because he was a king of people again,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like bowing to him, and he's like says, "No, friends, please, you bow to no one," basically, because and everyone bows to them because they are those little people who did arguably more than anyone else because they were just brave enough and loved each other enough to support each other and to get to the point where they defeated a terrible evil. So I think that's what to me at least that was the most relatable bit, I guess.
Yeah.
So
What
yeah.
I know you're volunteering with the military. What role do you typically occupy? Are you bringing, I think, medicine or something out? What role do you play?
Yeah, so I order stuff sometimes from like Some Medical is a website, is an American United States company.
Hmm.
They produce hemostatic dressings that we buy, which is like blood stopping like dressings for soldiers. They're incredibly good in quality. So I buy them from straight from the website and then deliver them to me and I give them to the battalions. This is something I did before I talked to Destiny, but now we also bought a quad bike,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. Vehicle, entire huge ass vehicle. So I even sat on that thing. So it's cool. And yeah, so we bought like stuff like power banks. We bought stuff for the kitchen. We have like this volunteer center in Kharkiv, and the ladies there and guys, they cook 2,000 meals per day for the soldiers
Mm.
because every day except Sundays. So since the war began, and they live there and they cook and they just their entire life is this right now. So we thought that maybe if we brought Dylan to them to meet them and to show what they're doing. He made a couple videos there, so probably we'll show them at some point. And yeah, so we really wanted to buy some like vegetable cutters for them, like better equipment, so it would be like less hustle, so it'd be like easier for them to do. And we did. I will post pictures, and I also posted like a vegetable cutter video that people are super happy about. And yeah, so helping them to cook for the guys and stuff like that. It's in all sorts of way. You also, when the war began in March, and it was like absolutely crazy for 2 weeks. No food, no water,
Hmm.
and we were just running around and like trying to, secure food for ourselves for people who could not get it. So we would had like chats, and people would like, I have diabetes, I need meds, and all the drugstores are closed. And we're like, where? Let's go get this person his meds, and people would run around and try to, help each other out. So for someone like, I can't find like food for my hamster anywhere, and people like, fuck your hamster, dude, it's war. But then this, let's go happy. The hamster find some food,
Yeah.
and that. So it was pretty bad. And when we left, like in March, left Kharkiv in March, I pretty much gave all of my food to that was remaining to my friend's father, and who stayed there, and my friend who has one of my best friends who has severe autism, and he was by pretty much, or his condition was very much worsened because of the war. So
Mhm.
he could not get out. He was too terrified and just couldn't deal with this shit basically. So I would like get him food, stuff like that. Also just random people, like water for elderly people who was stuck in the basement and couldn't get it.
Mhm.
So stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, when you guys, because I imagine, is there like high levels of PTSD going on like right now, or is that kind of like we got to get through this, kind of pulling people through? Like, have you noticed any levels of that?
I drink and shit talk Russian still applies, but yeah, but people, some, of course,
Mhm.
just must have, like I
Yeah.
don't will not say that they don't, but many people just cope with it in a way that I told you before. So that's all like for after we deal with this immediate threat to our existence.
Hmm.
So yeah, my mom has been holding up pretty well, I'd say. So she's even smiling a little bit, and
Yeah.
so
Interesting. And so now that because your country's pretty, it sounds like for me what you're saying, like unified against like the like kind of like the Russian invasion essentially. How have you noticed the way people are speaking about Ukrainian heritage now? Like, have you noticed a shift in like the general populace? Like you were saying, these things weren't even taught in your school. Is there now a shift where people are like talking about these things? Is there celebration of your Ukrainian culture and stuff like that?
yeah, so the shift kind of began in 2014 again, so during the revolution and after they annexed Crimea. people started to wake up a little bit, and I'm talking about the east, of course.
Mhm.
Like the west is has not suffered a Russification because it was not part of Russian Empire for as long as we have been. It was part of very different empires,
Mhm.
because empires just cannot leave us the fuck alone. So Austria-Hungary, maybe Poland, like other empires who just tore Ukraine apart, and the entire history of us is like, get the fuck out. We want to be like our own country. We want to be whole. But they end the resistance, of course. Vicious resistance that always gets killed and die down. Which is now, I think, is our time to honor all those people and fucking win.
Yeah.
Which is what we intend to do. But but what I would say that people I'm glad to say that not a single person in this country will be shamed for speaking Ukrainian on the street.
Right.
I think never. So yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Do you
hmm
speak Ukrainian?
Yes, but
Yes.
I speak like Russian primarily, but I know Ukrainian as well.
Okay.
Understand it. Actually, make some efforts to start speaking Ukrainian
So
instead of Russian, just
yeah,
to say fuck you. You know.
English, Ukrainian,
Um,
English, Ukrainian, Russian. Do you speak any other languages?
Yeah, no, a little bit of like Romanian, but little. I
Yeah.
actually am Greek, but I don't know Greek. I can read a little bit, but that's about it.
Both sides, like your parents are
Yeah.
both Greek?
My dad was fully Greek, and my mom is a mix of Polish, Russian, Greek, and maybe some other Slavic blends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and no, he actually spoke Turkish, not Greek,
Okay.
because he was under the region he was from was under Turks, so kind of same shit. So they made Greek there people that speak Turkish. I mean, Ottoman Empire and like the war between Greece and Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and quite a lot of my relatives are in Greece from my dad, from my father's side, and from my mother's side in Russia.
Yeah.
Fuck them. Yeah.
When you talk about West and East, like how West wasn't really like crushed, does that mean that there's a bit of a cultural divide as well between like Western and Eastern Ukraine? Or has this war kind of brought the whole country
It
together?
was
Or
it was it was believed to be because since Soviet Union times they were artificially making this divide.
right.
So they would call the Western people Nazis, collaborators with Hitler. So same shit they do with all other people, actually. With us right now, with Tatari, who they genocided in Crimea. Those are actually native people of Crimea, not Ukrainians and Russian, but actually Tatari, which were completely wiped pretty much by Russia off the face of the fucking earth. So all little of them that remained right now are living in terrible conditions. So they are very pro-Ukraine, obviously,
They're
and
called the
they
Tari?
Tatari,
Tatari?
Tatar, Tatari. They're like relatively relatives to Turks in terms of ethnicity, but so Crimea was part of Ottoman Empire, of Turkish Empire, and then Russia annexed it, and yeah, and started to pretty much in 1 century, instead of 98% of Tatari being population of Crimea was 98% Tatari, but 1 century in Russian Empire and it was 34.
Mm.
So it only went downhill afterwards because Stalin decided to finish that job Russian Empire started after World War II, and
Mm-hmm.
he deported pretty much the rest of them to Siberia, to all sorts of shitty places in Russia, and they quite a lot of them died on the road. And yeah, so those people are actually the population of Crimea, but that's another story. But guess what he's used as justification to do that? Called them Nazis, of course.
Mm.
So nothing new there. Same book.
Yeah.
They use all the time. So yeah, so pretty much this divide was very artificial. So we were made at this huge divide about the language. So because we were Russified and they spoke mostly Ukrainian, right? And also they were like called Nazis and stuff like that. So there was this artificially created resentment between the West and the East that Russia specifically created to divide us, basically. So divide and conquer, and it does indeed work.
Right.
And many people bought in, unfortunately, especially in the East, not
Mm-hmm.
in the West, but in the East. Many of my friends were like, I would go like to the West quite a lot, and I would return, and people like, you know, guys, you should go. Like, it's really cool. It's the people and the cities are pretty and all that. And they were like, no, no, we speak Russian there. They will like bash our heads in. And I was like, no, I talked like Russian with anyone, with everybody, and I did not change to Ukrainian like specifically to test it. And no, no, it's not true. And then people started to realize that in 2014, due to this unity, we even have this very popular song. Back in the day, it was like our jam, our revolutionary jam, and it was a song by Okeanelsy, which is a very famous band in Ukraine, and it was called Stena, which is the wall, and it was literally about the wall falling between east and west. So it's the song is about this artificially created wall, which is very reminiscent to the wall that was made in Germany by
Yeah.
Soviets as well. Yeah, so this is kind of this wall, like it did not like physically exist, but it was like an invisible wall, right? So
Yeah.
it was crushed by 2014 already. So people finally understood that we are Ukraine, actually.
Right.
Fuck off. So yeah.
So no division
Yeah,
now at
so
all. There isn't like this
yeah,
east
so
west.
no, it's not that important. So it's like there are some differences between people, but it's true to every country. So you would
Yeah.
go to like, don't know, like Alabama is pretty different from California, I presume. So you know, it's not like for example, Canada, right? Some people like speak French, some English, but it does not mean you're like not the same country. So we are also like the same people. We just were Russified. It is important to know that ethnically we are Ukrainian here in the East.
Right.
It just we speak Russian. So
Right.
people confuse that all the time. They say there's a lot of Russians there. No, the majority of people are still
You're
Ukrainian.
Russian
Only
speaking.
Crimea was, yeah. Only Crimea was majority Russian because of they genocided people who actually lived there and shipped their own people there to
Yeah.
to live there instead. So yeah, but people like Hassan would not talk about that bit, of course, but although he was supposed to be like maybe more compassionate to his fellow people. Tatari are very very close to Turks, so but he doesn't seem to give a fuck about these people. He only tells about like Russian and Russian speakers. I hate this guy, so it's another story entirely.
Yeah.
I already talked about it in all sorts of places, so I'm not gonna repeat that. I'm like known right now like a Ukrainian girl screams at Hassan, basically. So I
Yeah.
did my bit already, I think.
Has he ever reached out or anything or?
Nah, no, he wouldn't.
No. That's too bad.
Obviously not.
I mean, you'd hope,
Why
right? I wouldn't expect it, but you would always hope. How
Do you know to people like that, why would you learn centuries of history of Ukrainian resistance against Russian imperialism if you can just say America bad, right? That's
yes.
about
America
way
bad,
easier,
socialism
right?
good. Yeah. Right?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Socialism is another thing entirely. I would like talk with Destiny about it a lot, I think, but Jesus, it's so cringe to see that glorification of Soviet Union from American millionaire fuckboys. It's just something not sure how to even express in English how I feel about that. So to me, a person wearing a Soviet Union hat with a like red star
With the sickle and
is
stuff.
about the same. Yeah, it's about the same like seeing a person wearing a SS uniform.
Right.
So, and it is true for quite a lot of people in Eastern Europe who actually lived under those regimes. And yeah. So to say it's offensive is to say nothing, I'd say.
Yeah, it's a minimizing of. But again, this is why, for example, like when I talk with people, there's a lot of people that'll talk about like these concepts with like socialism and stuff like this, and we'll talk about the USSR, and people won't often know about like Holodomor. And like I don't know how you can like hold these positions and not know about something as like, in my view, like a pretty basic historical fact like Holodomor. But this is also the difference of like Canadian maybe education as well. Like that's not something we do a lot of international education in Canada. So yeah.
Actually quite a lot of Ukrainians in Canada.
There are.
I think.
Yep.
Like it's like a huge, the biggest amount of Ukrainians after Ukraine and Russia, I think,
Yeah, we
in the
have
world.
like big Ukrainian. We actually, in my province that I live in, we've got this. It's called the Ukrainian Village, and
Oh,
it's just a small town that just all of the Ukrainians when they immigrated just moved to like this is one of the towns that they all moved to, and they have festivals every single year. That's like full of like egg painting and pierogies and
ah,
yeah, and it's super. People love
yeah.
it here.
Pierogi is actually a Polish version. Ours is vareniki.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah.
We've Canadianized it. I guess we've
We have
bastardized.
like yeah, no. It's like the Polish version of this. We actually have like this war with Polish people who invented it first, but you know,
Yeah.
I can feel like this hatch has been buried right now. So,
Yeah.
but
There's more
yeah,
important
so
things.
basically the same dish. Honestly, I'm not sure like who made it first. It's like the same shit, just called the other like another language. But I saw like like vyshyvankas, people would wear them in Canada, which is like clothing with this like embroidery with like flowers and shit.
Yeah.
So flowers are very like prominent in Ukraine. So this is
Mm.
like we love our flowers. So
Why
it's like
why
very.
do flowers mean so much to you guys?
I think it's like Dion
You're wearing
actually told
flowers
me.
right now.
Oh yeah, I do. I love it. Yes, but it's just something people kind of like. We are very like I don't know how to say it like to make it make sense, but I think Ukrainian culture is very like feminine in a way, you know.
Mm.
So it's not. It has a lot of like. So we always talk about Ukraine as a mother. So we have this very like strong relationship with the earth in our like folklore, in our myths. So everything is very like feminine, you know, in a way. So for a dude to wear a shirt with flowery embroidery is nothing like strange, you know.
Hmm.
And Dylan actually told me that this is kind of cool that a man can wear this like very feminine what is taken as feminine garments, and it will be completely like cool in Ukraine in that sense. So people
Mm.
like draw, if you saw like some pictures maybe because of the war, murals maybe, they're all like with women. So Ukraine is presented as this beautiful like women with flowers in her hair, with like ribbons, and this is like very typical Ukrainian imagery if you like think about it, I guess.
Hmm.
So
That's
yeah,
interesting. I didn't know that
so
about Ukraine.
mhm. So it's kind of like that in the culture, and also a very huge difference between Russia and Ukraine in that sense, because how our like poets and writers, even from the very like back in the day times, how they speak of women is very, I don't want to use this word, but kind of progressive actually for the time that they were
Hmm.
like.
Hmm.
So the women have had really prominent positions in the houses, so they decided a lot of stuff. So it was not like a traditional, very traditional patriarchal kind of thing. So women have like pretty strong roles in Ukraine. We actually have Ukrainian poets and politicians that were women even back in like 19th century, and you know like
Hmm.
prominent figures like on our money. We have like Lesia Ukrainka, for example, which is a very famous Ukrainian figure, like a poet politician who was in fact a woman. So it's pretty kind of common to see like women very active in both like political life and in, I guess, in history as a whole.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, this I want to tell that story because I have not told it. So this is one of the things that Putin, glorious things that Putin said about when we were not happy with in 2015-14 with the Minsk agreements. If you know what that is, it's pretty much they wanted to make us take it, that they took Crimea and they took Donbass and stuff. So those agreements were terrible for Ukraine, but they like pressured us to, you know, accept their terms, which they called negotiations, but it's not the word I would use.
Right.
So pretty much Zelensky, he um, made it like very clear that those agreements were not up to our standard and we are not accepting on them. And Putin famously or infamously, I guess, said that нравится, не нравится, терпимая красавица, which to translate would be like it or not, endure it or deal with it, put up with it, or put up with it, right? So I like it or not, put up with it, like my beauty, which has this very women-like connotation to it. So the word красавица you would only use for women. So he basically said that Ukraine is that woman, that is that beautiful woman that has to deal with her husband basically beating her up, and she, whatever she likes it or not, she's supposed to put up with it, which is probably, as you all can understand, was both offensive for Ukraine and for women, of course, as well.
Yeah, well, it's
So this
interesting
has,
because Ukraine identifies as this woman in a lot of ways at like a poetic
yeah.
level. So
So
it's
this
like
was,
it's a double dig.
yeah, so this was like a weirdly rapey, sexist thing to say in the first place, but it was also
There's an
our
extra layer.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's getting raped literally by those people. So our answer to that was basically to, we have this pretty cool mural that I can probably maybe even send you right now if
Yeah.
I'm in it. So it's like a woman of Ukrainian traditional embroidery and like ribbons and stuff, and she wears this traditional Ukrainian clothing, and she has glasses on, black glasses on, and a gun, and it says "красавица терпеть не будет," which means the beauty will not put up with it. So basically, this was
In
like
like
the answer.
response to him.
Yeah. I think you can really see that, like this, like kind of like not only like the feminist vibe, I would say, but also like the that this will not something we will put up with at
Yeah.
all. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I will think I can send you because I think it's pretty cool. For maybe you can show it
Yeah, I'll pull it up on the screen.
to the to the peeps.
To the peeps.
I have so much. Yeah, I have so much stuff here. Jesus.
Also, just so you know, my husband is absolutely fawning over your green hair right now.
Oh, thank you.
Green hair is,
That's
yeah,
nice.
it looks really good. It matches your nails, I
It's
noticed.
like, yeah, it's actually like partially like
Yeah.
black purple here. Yeah, so the nails kind of like, yeah, match.
Yeah.
Thank you. Steven actually bullied my hair a little bit, so.
Well, don't trust Steven's takes on anything aesthetic based at all, ever. So.
Yeah, I think he kind of like conceded at the end of the day, but oh, sorry, I will
Yep.
find it if I can, but if not, then whatever, I guess.
Are you pretty involved with the art scene, or like you seem like a decently artistic person, but that could just be my misread. Maybe it's just the way you speak.
No, I'm pretty much, the only thing I was into was like makeup. I used to like be very interested in that, but my sister actually is an artist.
Okay.
Kind of. She can draw.
Would you,
Well,
because you speak
I
in
have so
a,
much pictures.
yeah, you speak in a very poetic way a lot of the time. When I've been listening to a bunch of
Oh.
your interviews, I've noticed like you'll reference literature, and you use a lot of like kind of descriptive language that's really interesting. So maybe that's just a Ukrainian cultural thing, but it's quite.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But also, I also kind of like read a lot, so maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I'm interested like in literature, in also in sociology, philosophy, stuff like that. So maybe that's also influences, stuff. But unfortunately, I cannot find it right now. But maybe I will send it to you, whatever, at some point. I really wanted to show it. Fuck. A moment. Oh, I found it. A minute. I would like to share it. And yeah. What do with this? It's just all new to me, this Discord thing, everything. I send it to.
Oh. Did we lose her?
Chat.
Oh, she's back. There we go.
Was I like?
Oh, you were just lagging. You're good.
I see.
All right, I'm gonna pull it up on screen. And so that underneath says the beauty fights back.
Like directly.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me? Something is like
It's
going on
it's a
with.
little bit choppy. Yeah, it's okay. It's probably because you were sending the
What can I
picture.
do? Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's balancing out now. So sorry, you said it says the beauty fights back.
It's basically the phrase is like, whatever you like it or not, put up with it, my beauty, right? So the answer is that the beauty will not put up with it. So I would say this is the best translation I uh, can
What
give.
is
And
that a church in the background? What is the there's obviously the artist was
yeah,
intentional
yeah.
in the buildings. What are the buildings behind her?
It's I think it's the pretty famous Kievo-Pечерska Lavra, which is like one of the main churches in Kiev,
Okay.
and it's pretty old as well. So
So it's like a
like
historical
yeah,
national site.
yeah, Kiev is pretty old. It's like it was created in 400 something,
Cool.
so pretty old, yeah.
Yeah.
And find me a city in Russia that old. I laugh,
Yeah, this is
but you
such
know,
a badass. And then she must be wearing traditional Ukrainian garments as well with the floral
yeah,
pieces on it and the necklaces. I
yeah.
don't
So the
recognize the
flowers
necklaces.
and yeah, those are pretty famous in like Ukrainian traditional stuff. So they're
Okay.
also oftentimes made out of wood or something like that. So red, and they're like long necklaces like that. So you could see that a lot of like Ukrainian traditional
Hmm.
wear, I'd say. The glasses are a good touch, I think.
Yeah, I like the like the top G vibe going on here. Or
Yeah,
Top Gun is probably a better yeah.
yeah.
It's very cool.
To add the cool in it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very
So
badass. That's
basically deal with it moment.
yeah. It's so interesting seeing art that comes out of like major historical moments cuz like when I'm looking at this picture, it's both cool because it represents it really captures the worldview of Ukraine right now, which is
I
like
think so,
the
yeah.
beauty fights back. Like we're
Hmm.
not putting up with this shit,
Hmm.
which is super cool. But it captures kind of your guys's view of like both the beauty of probably your nation, but the grit.
Hmm.
But I also think about the fact that like in 15, 20 years, this is going to be in like textbooks as well, like talking about your
Yeah,
people's fights, right? Which is super cool to see like
yeah.
history being made in the moment and like the small parts that were participating. I don't know if you ever think about this, but when I see this image, I'm like, I know for sure that this is an image. This is going to become like I imagine this will become an iconic image. If it's not iconic yet, like people start tweeting this out because it's a really cool picture.
It is. Yeah, I think many pictures like will have a lot of like murals, beautiful artistry. Ukrainians are pretty artsy, I'd say. So in terms of like art, in terms of music, we're very much into that. I think we have maybe I'm a little bit biased, of course, but we have pretty great like our music that we do, like Ukrainian music and Ukrainian language. And the
Yeah,
scene has been blowing up for like 8 years after Maidan.
yeah,
So yeah, quite a great quality soundtrack for this war. I'd say.
yeah. You
Kind of funny to
posted
say,
a
but
video recently of it was a
with
music video.
Доброго вечора, ми з України. Yeah, yeah, that one. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you said this
It's
song
like a
became pretty
mixture from.
much Ukrainian armed forces anthem, and this video captures Ukraine as a country perfectly, I think. Um,
Mhm.
could you tell me why this video captures Ukraine so well? I'm going to share the link of it with chat, but
Yeah, I think it's worth watching. It's pretty cool.
yeah.
Uh, I think it just shows like things we excel in, which is like music and poetry and sports. Like we have like pretty famous like boxers, and you know like Klitschko, Usyk are dudes who are world champions many times over.
Hmm.
And but it also kind of blends this traditional and modernal, you know, so modernity and tradition, like things that were like orchestral, classic orchestral stuff,
Hmm.
but with this like very electronic, like dubstep, like kind of sound that Ukrainians really like. We're
Hmm.
like very into our electronic shit. People listen to rock music as well, but electronic, like blend of ethnic, of folk and electronic is like very popular in Ukraine as a genre.
Mm.
So I think it's like very, well, this is the basically the sound of Ukraine to me. So like electronic is very like modern, right? But the traditional folk, like ethnic music, is very old, like goes to history back, right?
Yeah.
So this video really shows that also like this flowery business again, like everything is this very like has to do with sunflowers, with earth, with stuff like that, with nature, which is something like Ukrainians are very fond of, I guess. But also it shows like how we are the descendants of people who fought the same fight as we do. So in
Mm-hmm.
this video, they show like portraits of very famous Ukrainian people, so
Mm-hmm.
poets, freedom fighters, musicians, politicians who fought for Ukraine's independence, and they just stick those heads, painted heads of those people
Yeah.
on the modern day people,
Yeah.
which I find to be very kind of cool, you know. So to kind of unite the people that you, it's so kind of sad and inspiring at the same time when you read I don't know, like maybe Shevchenko or Franco, some of the classics in Ukraine, and you read the same struggle there that we are having right now.
Yeah.
So it's very relatable, you know. So I wouldn't say like many people who live in countries that are very secure, peaceful, which is great, of course, but they would read authors from like 300 years ago and they find them interesting, of course, but not as relatable, I think, you
Yeah.
know. So you would see it as a, oh, it's interesting in terms how people lived in that period, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to many people, but it's not like very relatable, I think. But for Ukraine, it's very relatable because it's the same struggle. So things they talk about then are things we talk about now. So I think this kind of brings us to understanding that this is the fight. It's
Yeah.
not war, the war, you know?
Yeah.
So
And
we
it's
have to be just as brave as they were.
mhm.
They fought, they died for this country, and why should we be any less than them?
Right.
So,
Yeah, it speaks to that cultural reclaiming that it seems like you guys are trying to have, right? I notice the concept of like shame about your culture and kind of like the cultural purging that's been happening, especially in Eastern Ukraine. I've noticed that's been a
yeah.
big theme that you've talked about, and I've noticed it's moved you to emotions a couple of times. It's
Mhm.
interesting to see kind of some of this art, like different art forms coming out that are tapping into the same pieces where they're if you look at the music video, all of the musicians are wearing very traditional looking Ukrainian clothing, with the reds and whatnot, and they're blending it with just like modernity, as you said, like just normal dudes in like like normal streetwear and whatnot.
Yeah, so
um
orchestra people wear like traditional Ukrainian embroidery and stuff, but the guys from Probes, which is the band that created this song, they are like like electronic hip hop
yeah,
kind of like
yeah, yeah.
vibe, and the girl as well that's like walks around the city, and I think that's what like to me represents Ukraine very well. Also, I'm not sure if people noticed, but there is actually one little bit of the video when she walks and the flowers begin to appear on the wall
Hmm.
and behind her, and the little patron follows her, which is the dog that is very famous, the most famous dog in Ukraine and probably in the world, which is our bomb sniffing dog, legendary one. He,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, there he is. Oh,
yeah.
that's
So he's
cute.
our little hero because he sniffed very many like bombs and helped quite a lot of our guys who find mines and like make them how to say demine them basically, right?
Hmm.
So he did quite a great job, and we love this little dude, and he has his own like Instagram account and shit. So president gave him medals, and he's pretty famous. So
Is he
people
alive
like
still?
yes, yes, yes. People like have obsession right now with his breed, which is Jack Russell, and
Okay.
people just buy those dogs, like like want to have them because of Patron, because he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We
Um,
actually are about to buy medical kits for dogs. I talked to my volunteer friend today, so to try and save their lives when they get shot and
oh,
blown up.
yeah.
So Yeah, this is something that I think is good to do. So we will buy those and help guys who are miners to do demining work to protect their dogs as well as they can. Of course,
Yeah.
they're wearing vests and stuff, but if right, people do shoot at them. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
right, yeah. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
yes, some
Has
of them.
Ukrainian invested? A lot of people I know swapped to using rats for land mining because they're lighter and they actually can smell better. I don't know if you guys use
I'm
rats
not.
yet, but
I'm not sure that much, but mostly dogs.
mostly dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
dogs are
I
more
think
traditional. Yeah,
we have like already trained ones.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And Patron is like the most famous, the celebrity sniffing dog.
that's so cute. It's the animal piece has actually been really interesting. I remember watching a number of Dylan Burns videos as well. Um, and just seeing a bunch of videos coming out about like how Ukrainians are just like it seems like animals and like pets and stuff are like a pretty important part of like probably your guys' like world and like life. I remember like Dylan having a bunch of videos where he would like zoom in, his cameraman would like zoom in on an animal and stuff. Like a cat that's like nearby or some
That's because
dogs, soldiers taking care of dogs. In part probably because
that's
of the vegan. He loves
that's
animals, but
he's not a vegan actually,
not
Dylan.
Dylan, his cameraman is.
Maybe yes, and also vegan is also Dylan shots like took pictures like of cats as well because he's just a cutie pie and he loves animals,
Yeah.
and he was touching some cats and dogs
Yeah.
in plenty of his videos. But yes, people take quite a good care, I think, of their animals and are attached to them. So most people I knew just were crazy about how to get their animals out of the bombed areas. We were like trying to get our rabbit out with my sister, so not to leave him behind. And so yeah, people of course care about their little bodies.
Yeah,
So
I think it's such a cool piece to kind of see because I think I mentioned this in the messages, but it's so hard I think for people who've never been in war to in any way map on to Ukrainians' experiences, right? Like it's just
mm,
it's just so outside of our worldview, right? When people hear about what you guys are going through and you're saying like we're gonna cry later, like I don't think somebody in like Canada even understands that because like what do you mean you're gonna cry later? Like that sounds horrible. Like if I were there, I would be crying like every day, right? But the reality is that like humans are deeply adaptable and
yeah,
the
that's
response
true.
does make sense. But I love seeing when you guys are like petting and interacting with animals because I think like in my mind like I don't know the proof of like if you're willing to like be loving and sweet and caring for like an animal, I just feel like that's good proof of like quality of person
Yeah,
essentially.
I do like seeing footage of our soldiers, like our firemen saving animals, like,
Yeah.
and just being gentle with them and showing that this like to me that's this it's what's a real man is like. So yeah, they're fighting there with guns, but they're like very gentle,
Hmm.
to civilians, to animals, to children, which is something you want to see, right? Even in the war.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the last thing I want is for our soldiers to become so, you know, to they have to, dirty their hands basically, right? In the war. So you have to like kill, right? And do some stuff. But at the same time, I think this helps with the keeping humanity, in this time. So one of my best friend is fighting right now he was in all sorts of shitty places like in Kupiansk, in Izum, in all like very tough spots. And I when it's rarely when I get a chance to speak with him, I always am happy to hear him talk exactly the same as he did,
Hmm.
despite the horror
The horror.
of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, he's actually I didn't talk much about him in any other like conversations, but this was kind of like the moment when he's from Donbass originally, so his home was occupied by Russia in 2014,
Okay.
and he then escaped to Kharkiv, which is my city,
Yeah.
and he lived there from there on. So, and when this whole thing started in 24th of November of February. It was very early in the morning, like 5 in the morning. And me and my sister woke up because of we heard explosions and we heard artillery fire.
Mm-hmm.
And she and I were like woke up, and we sat there listening to this artillery shots. They were like boom, boom, like that. And we sat in like complete silence. And for like maybe like, I don't know, like 15 minutes more, maybe. And then remember I said it started. And yeah, that was the point of our life when everything changed.
That's
So then
crazy.
we were like shocked, sitting there, and then we're like watching the first day like TV, reading Telegram chats, like internet, talking to everyone, like trying to comprehend what was actually truly
Happening.
happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, so people were like glued to our like phones, trying to understand what is going on, how
Mm-hmm.
bad is it. We were very had every reason to think that Kharkiv will be occupied because it's so close to Russia, and it was their target in 2014, sorry, and now it is again, of course. So people were saying in the media, in the Western media, like Ukraine will be like flattened in 3 days. They will take Kiev in 3 days, and we were like, everyone was like saying we have zero chance. Nobody wanted to give us weapons at the time, because why would you invest in a country that's going to be like rolled over in 3 days, and you will just give weapons to Russia,
Right.
basically,
Yeah.
right? So no, so basically for February, March, we started to get some weaponry pretty much in April
Yeah.
only. So at the time we were mad about that, of course,
Yeah.
but I understand like politically why that was happening. Of course, why would you invest so much money and weapons to the country that's going to be like smashed by a world's second army in like days? Basically, everyone gave us like a week at best.
I know.
So yeah, so we were like, well, fuck, what will happen? So we were like very terrified, and it was like second day basically, and I called my best friend who I talked about, and I asked him. I remember, so what will we do?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what the fuck else can we do? We fight. And I was like, we fight then, right? And I was like, yes, we fight. And I was like, okay, okay, I can deal with that. So yeah, so he basically asked him, what are you going to do? So are you going like stay in Kharkiv and help like volunteer work, like I'm going to, or are you going to move somewhere to Ukraine, maybe another place like farther away from Russia? And he was like, no, fuck no, I'm not moving anywhere. They like made me leave my home once already,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost like my home, and I moved here, and I will be not. Will not get shit, so they will not get anything. So he enlisted basically that very same day,
Oh wow.
and yeah, so he said like I can shoot, I can fight. What? Why the fuck would I run again? It didn't work. We like gave up to them our territory in 2014. Appeasement famously doesn't work with fascists and dictators, and this will not work. They will just get more and more and more. So yeah,
Right.
and he told me, I remember, they will not get you. They will not get my sisters. They will not get my friends. They will not get Kharkiv. They will not get my favorite fucking bar. They will not get the shitty shop on in my, and it's like like this very like bad. We have like this shop. We live in the same, basically in the same house, like from and he's like, they will not get this dumpster, and they will not get a single thing. So and yeah, so we went to defend our dumpsters basically,
Yeah.
and yeah, so he enlisted, and he went out, and then he showed me like to cheer me up, I guess. He showed pictures, like lines of people going to enlist,
Right.
like crazy lines, like just kilometers basically.
Yeah.
And he was like, look at that shit, you cannot. And they did not even take him to the army. Like, he was there for 4 days, and he
Really.
was like, take me, yeah. And they were like, we have enough people, so many people showed up, we really don't need you, dude.
Yeah.
You don't have an eye, basically. His eye, like one eye does not see.
Oh,
They were like, it will be hard for you to shoot. He's like, I can shoot with one eye. I can show you, and he truly does. He can, but he was one of those people who actually got on the picture of liberated Kupiansk, which he was like one of the people with the flag who liberated the city. And
oh
yeah,
wow.
so yeah, so he was like, "Take me," and he messaged me and said me, "You can't even go die for this fucking country. What is going on?"
Yeah.
So we were like joking around about that because so many people went, like leaves of people went to enlist. So they also wanted to defend their local shops and bars
And dumpsters,
and
yeah.
friends and families
Yeah.
and dumpsters. Yeah, so basically that's what gave us all hope, I guess. So despite everyone telling us that we will lose, we thought, nah, no, fuck no, we will fight. So even if nobody gives us weapons, we will still do anything we can to resist. And yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's lifted everyone's spirits up a little bit. So in
Sounds like
fourth,
you lifted your spirit up, right? In those first
for
two
real,
days.
yeah, yeah. So after that, I was like, like let's like put yourself pull yourself together
Yeah.
and stop the mopping about and do work, so help people who need it, fight back, do everything you can, volunteer, talk to people, tell the Western media, if you know English, I kind of do, so
Hmm.
talk to Western people with to I landed on CNN,
Hmm.
so and I also partially not only do work as a volunteer but also like show journalist stuff, like do them translations for them, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and do everything like you possibly can to win, to kind of prevail, to remain Ukraine.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it, I guess.
Can I ask about those first 15 minutes when you woke up and you heard artillery shot? Because you were actually much more prepared for this, it sounds like, than like some Ukrainians were, because
Yeah.
you had been expecting this
Mhm.
since at least 2014. What were the thoughts that like sorry?
Were people who were politically involved and who were part of revolution were much more aware of
Yes.
that this is going to happen at some point. So not only me, but quite a lot of people.
I can't imagine though the first 15 minutes when you sit up to a boom, and I'm sure your mind is racing, right? Because you're just waking up. So you're like, is it thunder? Right? Did somebody just close a dumpster really loudly? Is it this, that? Is there a fire? Like
I
what
knew,
was, sorry?
I knew it was artillery straight away.
Instantly?
And yeah, so I did not like, I was not in denial basically.
Mm,
So I knew. It's just what this 15 minutes. My sister said, actually said, despite her being very like a realistic person, she was like, maybe it's like something else. And I was like, no, no, it's artillery. So yeah, and but then I actually kind of funny. I called my like father, and he was like, and I was like, Dad, like war started. He was like, what war? It's fireworks. I'm like, no, fuck no, it's not fireworks in 5 in the morning. It's artillery. And he was like, really? And I was like, yes, really. So people are like, yeah, some people like
yeah.
did not like we did not want to. They're basically in denial. Everyone knew they were flexing tanks like for weeks up before that,
Yeah.
right? So they were like on our borders, taking all of their equipment here. We all kind of knew that this is going to be. But many people were like, maybe they're just trying to scare us. Maybe they're. It's not the first time they tried it, so they were like flexing their tanks before this, and doing some strange shit on our borders as well all the time. And people are like, maybe this time be like this, but I always told them like, no, guys, this is it.
Hmm.
So yeah, but sitting there like in this weird ass silence, we were just like with our like blankets, like sitting like that, and just looking at each other, like we were like the opposite of each other like that. So we were like just sitting like that in silence, and you just thinking like,
Oh God, here it comes.
so yeah, so from now on, this is it. So this is the life.
Right.
And yeah,
And there's that
and of
fear
course there was,
because everyone was saying you guys were
yeah,
going to get steamrolled, right? So I imagine those like first 15
yeah,
minutes and those first 2 days, you're like, when is it how long is it going to take, basically? And it's super
yeah,
cool that you guys were able to like turn that energy. What do you think was fundamental for, because you're right. I mean, the fact that Ukraine has stood as long as it has to the point where now you guys have reclaimed tons of territory is insane. What do you think has caused that shift? Like, what do you think has been unique about Ukraine's? Like, how have you guys been able to do that, in your view?
I think for the first few like months, it was just this resilience and unity and will to fight, like my friend said, right? So what do? What can you do? So we defend ourselves. We did not attack anyone. We did not hurt anyone, and we think what we do is 100% righteous, and it is. So it's not a point of a conversation. Were invaded, we were attacked, and we are defending ourselves. So people just had this, kind of like a revival. And when I see people now, especially our soldiers and volunteers, I see those crazies who fought back in the day, I
Yeah.
see them like revived in these people, I guess, so reincarnated or something. I don't believe in like reincarnation, but like in a sense, so they like inherited this spirit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been down, like I said, for many decades after in our terms of our resistance, right? But this is what you read about. This is like Zaporozhye siege, Kazaki, Cossacks, you call them, right? So this is the spirit that was woken up, I guess. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like maybe something like in the memory, I guess, like in the DNA or something. So it was
Yeah.
like woken up in people. So they were fearless,
Yeah.
and in face of that, you can see nothing fearless even, but they were like brave enough to overcome the fear.
Right.
It's reasonable to be afraid, if you don't feel afraid when you're attacked by a country billion times your size and with the second army in terms of numbers in the world. Silly to be not to be afraid, right? But nobody wants to go and fight,
Mm-hmm.
at least not we, not us at least. But but when the people, they did what needs to be done, so like don't mop about, pull yourself
Like, it's time to
somehow.
go.
Yeah, and it is time to do stuff, and we need to defend ourselves. We love this place, we love Ukraine, we love our cities, we love our friends, our families. We have values of our own, culture of our own, music of our own, aspirations of our own, and most importantly, the will to protect it all. So
Yeah.
I guess that's about it.
Yeah. It
So
reminds
when I
me.
saw,
I was gonna say, it
yeah.
reminds me of this poem. It's actually from Job, where it says it's talking about the horse, but it has this line that I think like keeps coming to mind, which is like, uh, he cannot. It's talking about a horse, so it's a stallion. So it's he cannot stand still, for the trumpet has sounded, and like it feels very similar to like what you're describing about Ukrainians. Like, you guys cannot stand still because like the trumpet has sounded, like the gong of war has arisen, and you guys are like, you won't back down. You cannot back down, because the trumpet has sounded, which is yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
it's really, especially from like Canada, where like literally nothing's happening. Like, farmers are tilling it's like fertilizer season. So like my greatest boon is that it smells like cow shit constantly. Which
Oh,
I like the smell, actually, so that works out for me.
okay.
It's
So you're like a village, like nature villager person, like
I
not big city
I
person.
grew up in like rural Alberta, so like
I
working
see.
horse ranches, so it's a comforting smell for me. But
I
um
love horses.
yeah, me too. It's interesting to see the ferocity and like the bravery of like Ukrainian people. Like, it's truly like the ultimate like David and Goliath story. Or
Kinda easy, yeah.
Myris, what is it called?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so bad.
Ministerial. Yeah,
Ministera,
yeah,
thank you.
ministerial.
It's truly like the Ministera story, which is so cool to see. Like, it's cool. It's like humbling. It's like awe-inspiring. Like, I don't know quite the right language to use for it, because any word that I'm going to use to describe it, like cool, is a deeply unsatisfying way to describe like
Yeah.
um watching
It's
this
like
from afar.
it very reminds me of something in revolution times, when this like pivotal moment in terms of will Kharkiv turn into Khener. which I don't know if you're aware, like
Mm-mm.
Doner, which is like republics, fake republics Russians created. So basically, the separated pieces of Donbass
Mm-hmm.
that they named like this republics that nobody in the world accepts as Russian, or as like phony referendums, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
usual stuff. And they really tried to pull this shit in Kharkiv. So there were like active attempts to turn Kharkiv basically in Donbass,
Mm-hmm.
which they succeeded there, but did not succeed in Kharkiv. So this was this one day when our mayor, he was very compromised. He was like pretty much a Russian separatist at the time, so like a supporter of basically installed by Russian government. Let's call it as it is. So we were like fighting against that, basically against our own police and stuff. That was again compromised in the time, and we then this was the day when he was going to consult pretty much with to pretty much make this decision to give us up to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And we, at this day, I remember waking up like very early in the morning. My sister already went there from another place. And I was like walking up and I called a taxi, I think, to get there faster. And I was like, in the place we agreed together to protest and to show them that we are not going to be fucking Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And we I was going there and I remember thinking like, please people, please just be there. If there's be like 5,000 people, we could nothing we can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just 20,000, please, just that would be I guess enough. Just wake up, just do something. And I like remember running on the street, and then there's this corner, and I go to the corner and I see like a sea of people in Kharkiv, like maybe 60,000 people, 70,000.
Wow.
And I remember was like, oh, like, oh, right, now we can, do stuff. We can show them that this is not something they can do. We scared the shit out of that mayor, basically, and out of every like pro-Russian organization that was there at the time. We marched like victoriously, and this was the day when Yanukovych, our president, fled from Kiev to Russia.
Mm.
So this is like a big, huge celebration. And we then decided now is the time to drop the hugest statue of Lenin in Ukraine, which was in Kharkiv on the Square of Freedom, which in and of itself is an insult.
Yeah.
But, we dropped that motherfucker. I participated in it. I actually showed Dylan videos of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we like pulled them with ropes, the statue, and we like dropped it. It was kind of big moment in Kharkiv, and in the we showed where we stand, I guess, in
Yeah.
Kharkiv. And I remember this feeling like being kind of like not believing in people, I guess, at that moment, like that they will not show up.
Right.
And then when I saw them, I felt like, well, I was like, I misjudged the people, I guess. So now it's the same stuff. So I all again doubted my own people. I don't know why they showed to be quite great before, but I always like doubt them. And without doubt ourselves, we always feel like we are not good enough for Europe, not good enough for NATO, not good enough for the West, not like that. So and now that I saw that how much people put their everything literally into defending this country, and now I think I misjudged them again. So they're pretty great actually.
Yeah.
So this unity feels pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. It's sad that it has to be because of such events, and people like my father, for example, will not see us prevail.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your
Yeah.
what was your father pretty involved in all this stuff, or what was his role in the war before
He
he
was
passed away?
supportive. He was not going to Maidan, but he was very supportive of our what we're doing. He was very worried, and my mother as well, for me, my sister, and my friends, because we like risked our lives there every day, which makes sense.
Hmm.
So, but he still thought it was a great thing to do, and did not like try to prohibit us. So it would not work, of course, but
Right.
he did not try to do it. So he understood that it was important. I actually remember pretty well the day we dropped the statue of Lenin, and we then returned home very like hyped, incredibly like boosted, like in spirit. And I was like, I saw like my father, and I was like, Dad, we like dropped the Lenin statue in the square, and
Yeah.
he was like, no way, no way, it's impossible. I was like, but we did. It's like literally fall. We saw it fall. We dropped it, and he was like, no way. It was like standing there my entire life. It just how could you do that? And I was like, but we did. And he was like borderline crying of happiness, basically.
Yeah.
So it was very. He like saw the symbol of everything in of Soviet Union, of oppression, of everything. Just every day when he walked to the university, it's like next to his university where he studied, and then he couldn't even believe that this could be possible, that this could be, that he will live to see the day that it will be gone, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I'm glad
and
you got to
his
see that.
yeah, and he waited really for the counteroffensive to begin. When we talked, he would always like ask, "When will it happen? When will it happen?" Because I talk like with soldiers all the time as a volunteer, and I was like, "Dad, I don't know. Our military like decides it, the strategy and everything." I'm like, I'm not going to comment on the strategy of our military from my sofa, so I'm like, don't know. But he was like, and he did not live, unfortunately, to see it. So basically, after he died, it was like a couple months, and then the counteroffensive began.
Hmm.
So yeah, and our like region was liberated pretty much in like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's still pretty shitty because it's getting shelled every now and then. And yeah, but it's not like 5-7 per day, but more be like one per day,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, a strike, I mean. So it's not that bad right now. I
Mm.
actually think about returning to Kharkiv permanently, but maybe my mom is not exactly like ready,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want to leave her entirely like here by herself. So
Yeah.
yeah, but the Kiev just got blasted as well. So a couple of days ago,
Yeah. I
and
was seeing that.
and yeah, so yeah, so she was. It was pretty bad for her because she was like not forget about the war. Of course, you can't forget about it, but she was like starting to recover, I guess, and in the relative like silence of everything here. But now it's like even I, despite the fact that in Kharkiv it was way, way, way worse, but than here. But I had troubles. I really love music; is one of the things I really enjoy, and I used to listen to music like a lot, like couple hours per day at least.
Yeah.
And I couldn't after the war started because I was afraid to. I felt this like anxious. I would miss a rocket sound or
Hmm.
air raid
Yeah.
and my job was to not to sleep and to wake everyone up. So I
Mm.
was like on a vigilant on a vigilant person, and I would sit the entire night, right? And in the beginning of war, and I would listen, and then I would hear like a plane coming to bomb, and I would wake everyone up and like hush them to the corridor
Yeah.
to sit between two walls. And after that it kind of became my like job basically, and
Hmm.
I could no longer like listen to music in the hot headphones because I was just too. And then I moved to Poltava, which is a much safer place for a while, and I just tried to force myself to like get headphones on and put the music on, and I couldn't. I
Yeah.
just would,
It's
like
too
tear
anxiety
them down.
inducing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, I think things like little things like that, I guess, and it
That's a
became really
really common experience actually for like high levels of like distress. Like
mm,
I know a lot of people who have like gone through like major events, like major distressing events in their life, and they report like a really common thing is like they can't wear headphones while they're walking. They always have
mhm.
to have like one ear out at least, and like the whole time they're trying to listen to music or a podcast, but they're like distressed because their body's like so hyper vigilant after this like event that like their body's like, why fuck you listen to music, motherfucker? Like, we gotta be ready. Is like kind of how their body's
Yeah.
reacting. Yeah.
True. Yes. But also it makes sense because you can really like
Yeah.
miss a siren and you have to like be hear it, and we are very like vigilant to the sounds all the time. So there is like boom somewhere and I'm like that, and they're
Right.
like, oh, it's neighbors.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be like very vigilant, and if you hear like loud noises, it's better to be actually, so you need to like hear and know what the fuck is going on. I can pretty much tell the distance and the artillery and the type of weapons that I use by sound.
Wow.
So yeah, so I can like tell if it's shitty or not, if it's like far away, not far away.
It's probably not a
Mm,
skill you ever expected to need to have.
yeah, it's true, but useful here. So,
Yep. Yeah.
so you need to like drop down to the ground maybe, or you need to, what actions do you need to take to, you know, survive?
Yeah. Do you find that you're very one day at a time right now? Like, because I imagine you guys are thinking, we just got to hold on till after the war, but it sounds like nobody's really making plans for after. Like, what are we going to do? Because
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the after the
that's true.
war is like, it's like the oasis on the horizon, and you don't even know like when you're going to get there or if you're going to get there or what the journey's going to like on the way. Like, are you living very much like one day at a time, like not trying to think too far into the future?
Yeah, because it's just, I think it doesn't make much sense to be honest. Like it can get blown up right now as we speak.
Mm.
So what the fuck would I like think about, years ahead if I not like 100% sure I will like survive the war yet.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense to not to like think about it all the time, like, oh, I'm gonna die, but to just think about it, to take some measures maybe, and to give, I don't know, your mom your password from your cards so she can get the money if you die, stuff like that. Not that I had much before, and money I use that I use for volunteer work, and but still it's to people to have some access. You have to think about what actions you need to take if you die, what will like happen. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about what we want to be done with our bodies, maybe like bury or like cremated, or stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so this is like a very practical conversations, so what will like need to be done, so it's easier for the people than when it happens, or if it happens, that they can know what to do, so they have less plan what to do with like you, and uh, you know
Mm-hmm.
I will say that this is kind of like what unsettling, I guess, to most people is the grotesque part of it, so what happens to the bodies and to the kind of very unpleasant to think about it. I know that if I die, I wouldn't give much of a fuck how my body looks, but it's kind of like, I don't know how to even explain. It's on a physical level, kind of unpleasant to imagine your guts out,
Yes.
when you die. So yeah, so this kind of like a thought, I guess. After what happened to my father, it became kind of like more prominent in my mind, I guess. So
Mm.
I'm not like more afraid, I wouldn't say, but I'm more cautious, because I know I was pretty reckless before, I'd say. So in
Oh.
terms of how I conducted myself, so I would not like asking for trouble basically, but I would be like more reckless, I guess. But now I'm a little bit more. I still do what needs to be done. So if I need to go to a pretty dangerous area to volunteer work, I will, but I'm more cautious in the sense that I understand that it's not about me. It's not just me. It's like my family, my friends, people who will like, see that what remained of me, for example, and
Yes.
they will be like extremely distressed, like we were when this happened to our father, how painful that was. So I know that now after I saw what happened, and I think about mother, think about sister, think about my bestest friends, like
Mm-hmm.
everyone who will like be terribly destroyed by what will potentially happen. So when you like put yourself in danger, you still do that because it's important to do that, but you kind of like need to understand that it's not only you have to think about, but also other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's kind of comes when this host death was pretty close. I had friends who died already
Yeah.
and were mutilated by war, and lost their loved ones and stuff like that. But it'll be honestly hard pressed to find a person in Ukraine right now, in the east at least, that who did not at least lose someone they
Right.
know. So
Yeah.
yeah, so and yeah, some people lost their entire families, and and what I mean is you have to like reconsider some things, like value of your own life, I guess, to others.
Is
So
there time for like funerals and stuff, or like how do you, because like with such a large number of deaths like per day. How is your guys' like how are you guys managing that as a community?
So in areas where there's active fighting, active artillery, and cities that were under shelling, that was no way to go there. Even people would just bury their loved ones in the yard, like
Right.
in the street.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And my father, we had to cremate because basically they were not doing burials in Kharkiv
Okay.
because of the amount of people died.
Bodies. Yeah.
So yeah, so and
So in
that's
Kharkiv, everyone
yeah.
is being forced to cremate loved ones. Like there was no other
Not
option. They
really.
had to
You
be
kind
cremated.
of can get the body outside of Kharkiv and you can transport it to maybe somewhere else and bury it in a better area that is not so shelled and shit. But now it's much calmer, so maybe it's already working. I'm not sure. But at the time it was pretty impossible. I tried to get my father's body to Greece because his relatives, not mine any longer, but his relatives, like my aunts and stuff, they demanded his body to be brought back to Greece. They pretty much said that it's all our fault that he died.
Is
It
this
was not
the
very pleasant.
relatives that asked if it
Yeah,
was the military base?
no, that's another crazy fuckers, but it's in
Okay.
Greece. Those were from Russia, so they were
Okay.
like, "You killed my like brother, you killed his sister," would say, and not the best thing to hear like the day when your father died. But I was like very mad, and I said, "What the you fucking bitch?" Like Russian missile killed your brother, not me. So he would not leave. It was his decision not to
Mm.
leave, and so basically, it was an ugly conversation, and by the end of it, I was like kind of salty and wanted to not to give them this like permission to send his body to Greece. But then I thought maybe he would wanted that, and for him, like to be the better person, I guess.
Hmm.
And but it did not work out, unfortunately, because of the paperwork and. Greek's counselor, and she's like ambassador. She's like a bitch, giant bitch, and she would not sign any documents from Ukraine if you did not have like proper documentation. And for example, we sent bodies of Americans who died here, like journalists and stuff like that, and British people as well. And they would accept their bodies even if there were like no documents, no people to recognize them. Still wanted those countries understood that it's war, and they wanted to bring their people like back home.
Yeah.
But Greek, it's Greece. I'm not going to elaborate any further. So she does not understand what is war, and there was like a mistake made in his like certificate of death, like that confirmed he was dead.
Right.
His
Okay.
name was written in the wrong way, basically.
Okay.
And we tried to like show her that other documents, other stuff, like we were vouched that it was him, his family, and she would just did not understand that the poor doctor that signed this certificate signed 33 ones like that day.
Right.
So she has like no idea about that. So we could not like keep his body in a zinc coffin any longer. It was in such a bad condition, the body, that they could not preserve it basically for
Hmm.
a long time. So we decided to fuck it and just cremate him and take this like thin urn. You say it. I'm not sure how to say it. Like urna, which is like a thing when you keep ashes of the dead person.
Hmm.
And we took that with us, and it's in Poltava with my sister right now. So much easier to transfer, and to I think maybe someday, if I can, I will if I have like the means to, I will probably want to rebuild the house. He really loved that place. So
Mm.
rebuild the house, his house that was destroyed, maybe plant the garden again with the roses and flowers and apricot trees, and
Mm.
maybe bury him under the apricot tree. He was a huge fan of apricots, like jam and like fruits themselves. So he grown trees. He really like cared for them.
Mm.
So maybe that would be kind of like good thing to do, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's in the future when you know.
Yeah. Past the oasis.
Yeah. So there are more like important things to think about now and to talk about now. So
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually crazy. I took his this like how to say it, not a bottle, but I forget how it's called. I think the urn is the word in English, like
Mm-hmm.
where
Yep.
ashes of dead
Yeah, the
people.
urn.
Yeah, yeah. Urna, yeah, we say so. It's the same word. And yeah, so this thing I received it via mail postal service. It was pretty crazy. I
Yep.
went to the supermarket, and people generally buy stuff, like clothing in supermarkets or like maybe some food. And I took my dad, what remained of my dad, in the postal office
Wow.
in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit strange, I must say. So
Yeah.
the guy before me was like receiving some cool umbrellas. So he was like opening them up, and they were like pink, green umbrellas, and he was like trying to how he looks with them, to buy them or not. And I was like, please, can I like take my father's ashes and go? And they
Yeah.
were like, oh yeah, yeah, of course. Here's your father's ashes.
Wow.
Just the surreal, a bit of a surreal moment.
Yeah.
I went with this box to my home after this, and I thought to myself, like, what is life even?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Has your conception of like death shifted at all? Because at least I don't know Ukraine's culture around like death. Uh, North America's terrible. We just like basically pretend it doesn't happen, and then when it does happen, we just all get really really scared, and we don't know how to handle death in North America at all.
Mm.
Does Ukraine? I don't know Ukraine's culture around like death and funerals or anything, but has your experience with like understanding death shifted or changed at all?
Not really. It's just that's a lot of it now
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's not like a death that you would usually see. It's like a brutal type of death. So
Yes.
yeah, so that's the difference, I guess. So like the grotesque stuff, the brutality of it, and but the generally people are pretty grim, I'd say. On a good day, I mean, people talk about pretty gruesome stuff. I'd say that I told with Steven about it, Destiny. I mean, that the jokes we joke would like get us cancelled 100% in the West. so, so basically, it's a little bit of a different culture, So in the sense that people are pretty chill with talking about some gruesome stuff and joke about it as well. And
Yeah.
I think it's also like a coping mechanism in a way because we have been through some nasty shit here.
Hmm.
So like a couple genocides, World War II, two famines, and Chernobyl, which is like the biggest like
Yep.
nuclear catastrophe. People's faces melted from their heads, and so yeah, the history is pretty grim, I'd say. So Soviet Union oppressions, Stalin repressions. Uh, it's kind of like people don't mop about. No offense to the Western people, love you pips for the support, but we would not be so successful without you all, of course. So, but we don't cry when we spill our latte. So
Mm. Yeah.
in Starbucks. So this
Yeah.
is what I mean is I actually envy you guys for real. Like I
Mhm.
want to live in the country when that is my biggest problem.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we have that one day. So my sister like sometimes get mad at like Western people who talk shit about Ukraine, and she would like always say like, "Holy fuck, they live such a good lives that they have nothing to complain about, so they complain about everything." And I
Yes.
I'm not sure like 100% if she's correct, but it sometimes feels like it. So yeah,
Yes.
so I would
It's the
say
human condition, right? If you don't have problems, then you create them to some extent. It's kind of like,
yeah. I
yeah.
remember my one of our friends, she left to Europe, and she was like, I think living sometime in Germany.
Hmm.
And she was like raised here in Ukraine, but she's Polish, like ethnically. And Jana is her name, and she was my sister's best friend, and I also was friends with her. So she then moved to Germany, and she was like very always complaining, like things are so good here. What can I find to fight against? There's like nothing to do for me. And she was very like, like very politically active, very like pro women's rights. She was like social worker as well. So, and she was like, everything is so fucking already good here that I have no like nothing to do. So in
Hmm.
Ukraine, I had like all those like monsters to fight with, like real, actual, like very gruesome problems. Not to say that everything is perfect in the West, of course, there are not, of course not, but comparatively, you know.
Yeah.
And then she like returned to Ukraine and she was like, oh, finally, this fucked up country that I love so much, that has so many like opportunities for me to fight for something better, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah,
It's a common so I work in addictions, right? And with a lot of like high risk populations, and that's a really common frustration and experience for a lot of like workers and even like clients that I've had, right? Is like all of clients being like, I don't really understand why people are complaining about like essentially like these like first world problems when like my clients
yeah,
are like, I'm homeless and like can't, I literally can't stop doing meth. Like like it's literally like life and death for me
mm,
constantly. It just like it puts things into different perspectives, which man, yeah, I mean, I have a lot to say about that that I want to
yeah,
be,
I
I don't
think
want to
so.
derail. I don't want to derail into like my own talking points about this, obviously. So I'm
No,
trying to
no,
be
it
mindful of
makes
that.
sense, exactly. I think you can actually be people who work with people with such like drastic, horrible experiences. People like you who work with them can actually be much more, I think, grounded, I guess, in what real like horrible struggles are. So I
Yeah.
think for you it might be, it's my like, maybe I'm wrong, but I think like for a person like you, it will be much harder to be like say you have depression because you're someone said on Twitter that you look ugly today, you know. So not to like say that people can't have depression because of like social media, of course they can, right? But I think like if you see this kind of like real horrible stuff, you then just have to like reevaluate some stuff that people complain about just by nature, I guess.
Yeah, it
And
speaks so much to how so much of human psychology seems to be, and like human experience and perception of their world is mostly based on relativity, right? For example, like wage, like differences in incomes only seem to like have drastic impacts on society when it's relative like wage gaps, right? Like when there's like these
yeah,
awarenesses of things. For example, we see like trauma, for example, when you look at like different like nations that raise kids like in a much more in a way that in North America we would say is abusive, we see like significantly lower levels of trauma because, for example, like I have a friend who was like raised in Mexico City, and he would like talk about like his dad like beating him constantly. And
yeah,
he would just like laugh about it because he's like, yeah, it's just like, you know, what dads do. And they just beat you, which like in North America, we're like, what the fuck do you mean that's what your dad does? Right. Which like speaks to like both the adaptivity of the human capacity of humans, but also like the relativity of suffering, like how like it seems to be that when your experience is relatively distinct from those around you, that's what can cause you to be like more distressed than anything else, right? Like even as you just fears about Russia, right? There's like a distress and like that relative disparity in like view of the world. But now
yeah.
that you're all like cohesive, right? It sounds like you have like a better connection to your community, even though that better connection has been found in like the most tragic and horrific of circumstances, which is war.
Yeah, that's true. Also, what you said about like traumatized, that people like person says about that he was beaten up like in as a child, right? But he's not like talking about it as a trauma,
Right.
which may be at some, if you think about it, that maybe he's like coping, like we coping, like with making jokes about terrible stuff. But at the same time, he can really truly be not traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
So he's more resilient, that person, right? So people wrote me emails, messages after I appeared on CNN, and they were like, oh, you must be like so traumatized, have like PTSD and like depressed. And I was like, I'm not like, and I'm not like trying to be like cool and stuff. I just genuinely don't think I have those things. So
Right.
it's okay to have those things, especially during war, but I
You're
don't
like,
think
what?
I
I've
do.
got green
So
hair. Of course I'm fine with mental health problems.
yeah, yeah. So and but I don't think, I genuinely don't think I'm like depressed, or I'm like I don't have like I don't have like PTSD.
Yeah.
Some people do, who were like blown their house is blown apart, right? But I'm not. So it's just people sometimes tend to, especially I think in the West, I feel like they just traumatize themselves. I'm sorry, it might be a little bit offensive, but they just so like caught up in little shit and they like traumatize themselves. It's not the event that happened is so bad, it's how they see it and how other people tell them. It's like my sister, she actually took psychology courses no
Courses?
courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, curse is a different thing. So she took courses from Israeli psychologists. Actually, they did this like psychological classes for free for our professionals in psychology to teach them how to deal with blowing up, basically, with people blowing up, with like rockets, with very traumatic, stressful like events,
Yeah.
how to act around those people, how to treat them, how to, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So my sister took this like not curse.
Course.
Ah, sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, it's very similar word. Like it's like deaf and death, like death, like that doesn't hear anything, and death, like die, death. So yeah, and so basically she was like studying for free. They did those lessons for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a way to escape that word, lessons. So they did those lessons, and she was like, "You don't have to tell person, oh my God, you were traumatized.
Right.
No, you don't do that. You say like, you're fine, everything is okay. Here's the task. Go like call your some relative, or you could go make yourself a coffee." So you tell them what to do. So you try to ground them, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
try to bring that control over their life back to their hands, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, coffee, yes, I can do that. And you send them, and they can like like do some tasks. Like my mother actually wanted like all the time to do something, like to
Mm-hmm.
clean, to like to cook. She always did it, but after what happened, she was like always trying to concentrate on being like useful, being capable again. And
Mm.
this really helps. So not to, if you tell this Israeli like psychologists told people here. So if you tell them, the person, that they are traumatized, they will be basically traumatized.
Yes.
So if a person like sitting like with a blanket, like they were like blown up, but they actually don't have like traumatic disorder, right? So they are kind of okay. So they're understandably terrified and grief. They have grief for the loss of their like home, their maybe relatives, but they are not like experiencing this like trauma.
Yes.
And if you tell them, oh my God, you must be so traumatized by this explosion, and the person will be like, oh, am I? Oh, yes, it was so bad. I am traumatized. So we can like actually push the person into that trauma with
Mm-hmm.
if you stay. At least that's what they said.
Yep.
And I think they kind of know their shit because they, deal with it a lot. So,
Yeah, retroactive
um,
traumatization is a really, really big problem. Actually, like, it's one of the things. For example, in my line of work, when I'm doing addiction care, for example, I'm working like when I was in my youth center, I was working with kids who were like rescued from like grooming and like grooming
no,
and pedophile rings, like really extreme shit, right? Like really intense shit that like any normal adult looks at that and says that must be traumatizing. But I remember one of my coworkers saying this to the client of being like, "You're probably traumatized," but the client herself wasn't there yet. And I remember like being so angry, and we had like a big sit down with the staff talking about it, where basically like it
mm,
was reinforced again of like it's really, really important that when it comes to something like trauma, like trauma is your own, that is yours. Like it is your thing, which means you get to dictate the terms of it, which means you get to label it trauma if and when you decide that it's trauma, and nobody else gets to do that for you. And to do
mm,
so, you might think that you're being compassionate, but what you're actually doing is just like inserting yourself where you don't belong. Like you're trying to rescue somebody before they're asking for help, which is like a really bad thing.
yeah. This
Yeah.
is something they like insisted that our professional psychologists like don't do,
Yeah.
because yeah, so if a person is like traumatized already, then you will like notice it basically.
And
But
they
if
will
they are
know.
not,
They will know. They might not have the
yeah,
language,
yeah,
but they'll be like, something's wrong. Like something's off with
yeah,
me. Yeah.
but if they're not, like, don't tell them they're supposed to be,
Yeah.
because then there will be basically.
Yeah. Let people decide their own narrative, basically. Like let them decide it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I received like quite a lot of emails like telling me like, oh, you must be like this, you must be that, and I'm like, I'm not. Come on. So like people are doing that with like good intentions, like mean well, basically. So they want to
Hmm.
show me that they like think they're like, you want to talk with me, I'm always there. And I'm like, dude, no offense, or lady, like, no offense, but like, I don't know you, why the fuck would I call you to vent to vent about when I have like my peeps here, like my volunteer, my friends, my like everyone
Yeah.
who I talk to with regularly. So I would much rather, talk with them than, well, maybe they think like I have maybe have now nobody to talk to, maybe something like that. So that makes sense, I guess, for them to do. But yeah, but people are, I guess it's understandable because living in maybe in Canada, they were this person was from Canada, I think, who asked me to suggested I should talk to them if I feel like down. I think maybe it's very like you said, try hard to actually kind of like empathize with us and understand fully what we are going through because of the just the difference in our lives comparatively to Canada, for example, right? And maybe they think like if they were in this situation, they would be like 100% like off the rails, like traumatized, depressed, and something. And maybe they think that it's like that with everyone here. But people are, like I said, very resilient. I pretty much don't know like a single person who is like moping all the time here.
Mm.
Um, except for maybe my friend who I told you about, like autistic one in Kharkiv. He's like, yeah, very in a bad condition. I talk to him all the time to just get him out of this like loop he's in because it's
Yeah.
very hard for him. His best friend, who is my best friend as well, who's fighting right now, is at war. So he was like his rock basically. He would rely on him in a lot of like they were like childhood friends from the very beginning of their lives. So my friend who is fighting right now, he would always like protect him from like bullying, from he would always be like this protective figure in his life. So now he doesn't have him anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard for him.
And
I
you,
understand that, but most people are very like they will laugh, joke about, and you would talk with people like try to cheer each other up. I guess not to mop about the
yeah.
how fucking bad actually things are. So,
Yeah. 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 There's the, I remember my friend saying something about just her own experience with like mental health, where she's also the type of person who was always staying busy. And she would talk about how basically like sometimes when we're like running towards something, we like run so hard, so fast, and for so long that it changes from like running towards something and running away from something. Which is like something I think about in all this of like when I see like really busy people, there's always this question of me, I'm like, are you running towards something or are you running away from something?
mm,
And I think in probably wartime, it is both of those things. Probably for
yeah,
most people, it's both of those things all the time. They're both
I
running
think so.
toward
Yeah,
and away from something.
maybe it's just like partially coping, partially like the character of the nation in a way because we just dealt with a lot of shit before. We are not like I don't know how to say it, not in an offensive way, but not fragile, basically.
Yeah, you don't have
So
milk
we
bones.
we yeah, so we are pretty poor as well in terms of like Western countries. So
Yeah.
us living in this kind of like condition with no heat, with like no money, is not something like particularly new to people. So it's worse now, of course. So,
Mm-hmm.
but people are more resilient because of the harsh conditions they already lived their lives in. But at the same time, it's I think it works for us now. So
Yeah.
how people will deal with shit afterwards, I'm not really sure. But we have to get
Point.
to that bridge before we cross it.
Yeah.
So I think that's not something to like I said, thinking about the future is kind of silly in terms of I literally don't know where I be like tomorrow. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You can't
so
plan
you
for
have to kind of
university if you don't know if university is going to be around tomorrow, right?
yeah, yeah. So my university was actually pretty damaged in Kharkiv, but not severely. The building is still standing, which is nice.
That is nice.
And yeah, and it is kind of like when I go to Kharkiv, I feel worse for sure.
Mm.
Sometimes I feel better because I feel like I'm home and then I'm among the people who left there. And but at the same time, seeing things that you like, like your street, you walked like every
Yeah.
day
It's like
basically
your
there, right?
childhood
And it's
street, but
like
it's totaled.
yeah, yeah. So I have like this bus stop. I used to take ride buses there to the university and to work afterwards all the time, and it's just full of bullets now, like
Mm.
holes in it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a bit hard to see, but you still can deal with that. But it's harder than to be places you love turned into ruin is hard
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. That's super fair.
But it's not like the worst thing, of course. And Kharkiv is not like it's probably after Mariupol the most damaged, biggest city in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So yeah, also in Mykolaiv as well. But um, yeah, but we call people in Kharkiv like this nickname is Zaliza Betonni in Ukrainian, which means in English like reinforced concrete people or reinforced concrete. Yeah, so or reinforced concrete city basically,
Yeah.
because people in Kharkiv are a special kind of breed, I'd say. So many people are, of course, here great resilient, but man, Kharkiv just that people just are hardcore.
Yeah.
So they will like go shopping up in middle of the artillery blast. They would like walk their dogs despite the explosions, and they will just do go about their business like badasses they are, and do not give up. Work for the betterment of the city, and you see flowers like flower ornaments everywhere. You see people like cutting grass to the bomb just dropped and people like trying to make the place prettier and just to clean up a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's so kind of fascinating to see in a way, because the road, for example, was like very destroyed, right, by a shell or something, right? And the very next day the already service workers are trying to make it to renovate it, to make it workable again. And people praise soldiers all the time, and it is the good thing they do that. But also no less heroes are people who firemen and medical personnel who like drives to or works like 44-hour shifts
Yeah.
to help people. So yeah, I think we appreciate our like service workers way more than we did before. So that's nice. When this whole thing happened with like my house and my father's house and him, I police called us, actually, not like my mother. And well, honestly, I was sleeping. It was like 10 in the morning, Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So they oftentimes attack in the Monday mornings because it's very busy. You can get a lot of people. And yeah, so for example, a park or a crossroad or like a city center in the Monday morning will be like busy, right? People will go to work. And this is that if you are a terrorist state, which is Russia is, it's a great way to
Attack.
cause the maximum amount of damage. So basically, that's what happened to my dad as well, I guess. But my when I was sleeping in Poltava, and my sister got the call from my mother, but she was like just screaming. There was like nothing, just yelling. And my sister was like, "What's happened? What's going on?" And she just couldn't understand. And then a policeman took the phone from my mother, and he said that hello, my name is such and such, and your house has been um, artillery shell dropped, smerch it's called, dropped in the yard, and your father was killed. And my sister asked then, what about mom? And he said she is fine, she's alive, but you know this is what happened.
Yeah.
And she then went to my room and she like waked me up, and she said, wake up, our father was killed. I think that's what she said.
Wow.
And I also woken up and I said, like, what about mom? Because I know they stay like in the same house. So I thought that they both died at this kind of moment, but which could have happened actually. My mom left the balcony for like 5 seconds before this happened.
Wow.
So she was also standing on the balcony with him, and she was urging him to go inside. So she was like, "You old stubborn ass, go to the house. Why are you standing here? It's like artillery attack somewhere nearby." And he was like waving her off, like he wanted to see, like where the shell landed, like where the fire was or something. Like, yeah, I always ask him, like, just please go inside when there's like sirens. He
Mm-hmm.
was stubborn as a mule, so as a donkey. So basically, he left. She stayed there, and she like that, so like never listened to what I say, and she went to the house, and that's when the explosion went off. So yeah, and so after that we talked to the personnel who went there, like medical personnel and police people and service workers, and there was a car passing by actually with a man and his son, and they were very much also hit by this explosion. They were just passing the house on their car, like, and the guy just went out of his car, and his hand was semi torn off,
Wow.
like he was the hand was like hanging from his like
Yeah.
like his shoulder basically. And they started to talk to my mother with like, oh, are you hurt? Let's go to the like medical to the emergency car to help you out. She was like, I'm not hurt, I'm fine, it's just scratches. And they were like, please, we need to like see if you were wounded in any way. And then they saw this man with his son like crawling out of this fucking car on the like cross the street. And my mom was like, please help this person, they definitely need it like way more. And the guy, the young man who was his hand was like injured, he was like, I will wait, help the woman, so it's very um like that, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, so those service workers, they told us crazy shit, like what they experience on a daily.
No kidding.
So for example, one story was of a guy who was he was a medical like emergency, how to, I don't know how to call it, like it's like
Like a
a car
paramedic?
that, yeah, paramedic, yeah. So he was like that, and he told us when we were like sitting there just thinking like, what is life even? And he was just be grateful that he died like instantly. It's
Wow.
like the better way,
Mm-hmm,
because
mm-hmm.
he was killed like instantly, and he pretty much, I think, didn't suffer, and most likely didn't even understand what the fuck happened.
Right.
So and we were like, well, yeah, that's true, honestly a good thing. And he told us that he was on a call, and they came to this building, residential house in Kharkiv, with 12 floors, like building where people live, apartment block, and 3 floors collapsed after the mishap.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to pick people up from the like rubble to give them medical aid, and he's very young, and he was like
Oh. 1 second. Your sound cut out for like the last thing we heard was the three buildings, and more or less there it got cut off. Still no audio. Can you hear me? You can hear me, okay. Hmm. Hmm. Just make sure, yeah. My output's the same. Oh. Oh.
sorry, can you hear something now?
It's all good now.
Oh, I just decided to, drop the call, and maybe it will fix itself.
Yep. It
Yeah.
did.
So basically he went to this like apartment block that was destroyed, and he saw that paramedic young man. He saw a man. His half of his torso was missing. So up until like the legs, where the legs begin, it was torn off,
Okay.
torn off. And the man was still alive, and he was just screaming, "Help me! Help me! Help me!" like nonstop.
Yeah.
And I thought of this image, and then I thought, well, yeah, it's good that my father was not that man, that he died like quick. And he's elder, like more of a experienced paramedic, elderly like guy who was with him there. that young person, he was shocked when he saw that, and he did not know what to do, and he was like maybe trying to like use a syringe to like to help this person somehow. And the older paramedics said, leave him, he will die in like minutes, just leave him there and help someone who can still survive.
Yeah.
So so they deal with that stuff every day.
That's crazy. I can't
So
imagine making those
yeah,
choices. Like who to
yeah.
help.
So yeah, and they have like in crazy shifts. And yeah, so actually what he said, despite how gruesome it may sound to some people, it actually like kind of lifted our spirits a little bit, because I would not want my father, of course, to suffer like that. So
Yeah.
at least he died fast, because
Yeah.
considering in the shape his body was, there was like immediate
Like death on
death.
impact, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, which is also something to kind of hard to speak this part. But my mom, when she went, she started to call for him, because she thought he was behind her, so he also went to the room with her.
Mm-hmm.
But he remained on the balcony, and she started to like call for him and try to find him. It was all like with rubble flying everywhere, like like white stuff from the walls, like and she went like comatose a little bit. She tried to go to see to the balcony, and then when she saw basically quite a lot of his internal organs were outside, and the hand was turned off, like the arm. And she, despite obviously that he was pretty dead, and she then still touched his foot and called his name a couple of times. This parts always get me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You
I
don't have
mean,
to apologize at all.
I tried last time to tell this story without crying, it didn't work. And yeah,
That's okay.
a minute,
Sure.
I'm good. So yeah, so this is kind of like people deal with. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful she's alive, so that's also a good part, because it might have been a call that from that policeman telling us you basically have no parents. So
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least something, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still think about the fact that, like, thanks to you, he got to, like, actively thanks to you, he got to see the Lenin statue torn out of the Freedom Court,
Yeah, that was a long
which
time ago, but still.
was
Oh,
probably
actually, fun
pretty
fact.
special for him. That's pretty crazy to know. Like,
Yeah,
your
fun fact.
daughter helped tear that statue down. Sorry, go ahead.
Two, actually, two daughters participated.
Oh, both of you were
So
there.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically when my father went to that like place where we actually joke around, the only thing that remained of Lenin was his shoe. So it remained on the like the postament, like the like
Yeah,
the
attached to the base.
platform, the statues.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we always joke around that now this is a monument to the shoe, and people like wanted this to remain a monument to the shoe for some time. And then I basically, my father was going there near the statue, what was left of it. That
This giant box, though, so go
makes
out there.
sense, right?
Go do it out there.
W-
Or not. Okay.
Why not chew on the box when you
Loudly,
can?
as loudly as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just funny that it's you sitting there and just behind you like the ears.
Yeah, her little pointy ears.
You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very
yeah.
cute.
So yeah, so he then went there to see like the stuff, and there were already Russian reporters there. So from Russia Today, conveniently already there.
Mhm.
So they were like reporting how evil Nazis turned like destroyed the statue of the glorious Lenin and his Soviet legacy. And and she saw my father, who was kind of elderly already at the time. So I'm like pretty much younger than my sister, quite a bit, and also my mother is younger than my father. And so she like saw him, and she was like, no, this is the good like person to sell my story, because he's like elderly, he might be like pro-Soviet or something. And she got him, she tough shit for her, I guess. She never saw that footage anywhere, but she asked him, what do you feel like about this barbarian like attack on like Lenin statue? And he was like, should it be like here? How do you feel about those barbarians? And he was like, like having a Lenin statue on the Freedom Square of the city in Ukraine is the same thing as hanging the portrait of your rapist on your wall.
Mm.
And she was like, okay, we're not showing that. I think he was pretty lit. He was actually pretty proud of himself.
Yeah.
They then returned and told me the story. But
Yeah.
it is actually a portrait of a rapist on your wall. He
Yeah.
told pretty much how it is, but it was kind of fun for him, I guess, to troll that woman a little bit. Yeah. So he was a bit of a rascal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A stubborn rascal.
So yeah, so I'm pretty like I said, it feels bad that he did not, live enough long enough to see us prevail, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe we will, but he didn't saw it himself. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, pretty sad.
Yeah. And so you fight forward anyway.
Yeah, but like I said on like CNN when I was the next day when I was talking about what happened, they saw this like footage. ITV is like British news journalists who I worked with, and they like talked with my father, and they like saw the house as well, and we like chilled a little bit with he showed them his garden, his trees, his cat, that's things like he loved and cared for, and they recognized it basically quite quickly that this was the house on news, and then they saw my video I made about it, and they like wanted to make a tribute to him basically, and also CNN as well, because I talked with them like 7 or 5 times at that point, and I talked with Anderson Cooper mostly, who's pretty famous, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so he talked with me about it, and I remember he was like, or he asked like, what do you feel like about the war, like about your president and your like administration said that you will not negotiate, that you will not talk with like Russia about anything, you will continue the fight. How do you feel about it? And I was like actually confused. I couldn't like truly understand what the relationship is. So my father died, but what does it change in the terms of me? So I would be like, oh yeah, let's negotiate with Russia.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what? Yeah. So why would it change like my opinion on anything? In fact, it made it like kind of made me hate this fucking state even more. So
Yeah.
I told him like this is just one person that died that day. Like 30 people died that day. It was a horrible day in Kharkiv, and same shit. Like this was person was important to me because it was my father. But those people, they are not stats, right? They are people. They're someone's brother, father, mother, best friend. So this is not just me, it's one person that died. Important to me, of course, but other people lost their families, their like loved ones just as well. And yeah, it's just something happens every day. Just because it's my father, it doesn't change anything pretty much.
Right.
So that's
No.
what I said to him on CNN, I guess, if
Yeah.
I remember it correctly.
And obviously
So
Anderson doesn't know this, but for you, you've been fighting for this for ever at this point. Like if anything, it's just going to renew the charge of like, this is why this is so important. Like this is why it is fundamental
yeah,
that we fight.
his cat survived actually.
His cat survived.
Yeah, she was like in the one part of the house that didn't like blow up where my mother was as well. So she then was very distraught, and I think she has hearing problems because the ears of animals are kind of sensitive and
Yeah.
the sound. And she also like couldn't understand what happened, and she would like search for him, and
Oh, that's sad.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you still have the
But
cat?
then we kind of yeah, so we couldn't like take her with us, but we tried to like catch her basically because she was like very like manic
Scared.
and
Yeah.
panicking. Yeah, so but then she kind of calmed down, then she came to us, and she was like meowing all the time, like going to the spot. He made this kind of like a lift for her, like a cat
Like a
elevator.
little
So
throne. Oh, like an
yes,
actual
it was like
elevator. That's
yeah,
cute.
yeah, yeah, so this was like a bag like that, and he would like pick her up from that balcony he died on. Exactly. Yeah, so there, so she would like go there, and she was like meow, and then he would pick her up so she wouldn't get her lazy ass on the stairs and go to the house straight up from the yard. No wonder the cat got so fat, but he like spoiled her a lot. And we took her to our friends in Poltava. They have like this private house with the garden and everything, and she now lives there with them. His daughter friends all wanted a cat. She's a teenager, and she's like very sweet girl, and she, I think, will take care of her, and uh, maybe she will have some nice life again as she
Yeah.
did in Kharkiv.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm.
and my rabbit is with my sister right in Poltava as well.
Your rabbit? What kind of rabbit do you have?
He's like I don't know how to say that in English. It's Levinogolovый is his breed, which is like lion head
So it
to
just got like
translate it
the
directly.
long hair.
Yeah, yeah, like that. Yeah,
He's like
like
super fluffy.
yeah, a mane sort of. And he is pretty old. He's 9 years old already,
Okay.
almost 10,
Okay.
which is pretty old for a rabbit. And yeah, his old days are very eventful, I'd say.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
he's actually dealing with everything pretty well. He stopped to react to explosions at some point, and he's pretty chill.
Okay.
Yeah, his name is Ponchik,
Ponchik.
which means donut in English. Yeah, donut.
That's super cute. That's very cute.
Yeah, the dog returned,
Yes, with the box. We'll see how loud
of
it
course,
is.
with the box.
Yeah.
I can hear it actually, so
You can't hear it?
the dog. Yeah, so the dog can, have. Oh, that's something I heard.
Yeah,
Just for a moment
I
ago.
know stream can hear it. Hey.
Hey, it's a dog. It's good that we can hear a dog.
Yeah, it's true. I'm gonna give her the quiet box though.
Oh, that makes sense.
She can have this box.
You have like a extra box.
Yeah. This one's like it's like a kombucha box, so it's like super sturdy and
Ah,
loud.
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
My rabbit likes to chew on boxes as well.
Maybe she's part rabbit. That would explain it.
Maybe. She has ears like stick out, so.
Yeah, she's a German Shepherd, Malinois
Yeah, I see
Husky
that, yeah.
cross. So she's a whole
Mhm.
she's a whole mess. That's what she is. A cute mess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess that's, I think, what time is it? Oh, it's already 11 for me.
Yeah.
23:00.
Yeah, it's 2
So
p.m.
maybe
for
if you
me.
have something like to talk about, then maybe some questions or something, or so
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
finish.
Is there anything that you want to that I haven't asked you that I should have?
Honestly, there's so much to talk about. Like so much stuff happened, and I think like if someone like talks to me and I don't have to like go somewhere, I will never shut up. I have so much stuff to say, and for 8 years already, so
Yeah.
makes yeah. I sometimes think that hours need to be of conversation can cover like everything, but I think like
Have you
been
considered writing a
everything.
book? Like writing a memoir or anything? Or like hiring somebody to help you write a book? I imagine there's somebody who'd be
Maybe.
willing to do it.
Maybe, yes. I think other people have more interesting stories to tell, honestly, but maybe mine is not boring as well. And yeah, maybe someday, I'm not sure. And I actually worked as part-time as a writer. Like I would write mostly like academia text for lazy American students, like papers,
Oh,
like
you would write their papers
essays.
for them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm much better in writing in English than I am in speaking. So I can, write some pretty decent stuff, and at least the students got their A's, so good marks and stuff. So I guess I did a good job, which is kind of like not the most moral, I think, but to fake your education, to have a random Ukrainian girl writing your, papers for you. But well, whatever. It paid, so.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of
Uh,
impressive, actually. What grades would you able? How do you run that? Are you able to like guarantee certain grades or?
Well, like guarantees, but there are like editors who check stuff. If you write, I actually editors stopped checking my stuff because it was good already. So I had like a 98 and 8 rating out of 100. So I guess it was. I wrote some pretty cool stuff
That's
sometimes, but
impressive.
it sometimes it was boring, honestly, like very like academia, psychology stuff, maybe, or sociology. I was more interested in sociology and philosophy, but I wrote some pretty cool stuff. One of the works I wrote was like for the movie Jaws about the
Yep.
shark, like
Yep.
so that movie, the paper asked me to, or the person I was writing for, I guess, to make a theater, like a theater version of it, basically. So a play. What would it look like in a play? So I figured out this play, how it will look, and I like created this whole scenario, and was pretty proud of myself. I thought I would go to see that play 100%. And then I sent it to them, and they got a very good grade, and
Yeah.
so, but it paid not as good as the effort was to write it. So it was quite a lot of research, quite a lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
work, and especially when they have like they need like 10 sources or something, like, or maybe like like stuff, academia stuff, and then you would get like 15 or $20 for that.
Yep.
And yeah,
That's it.
so a bit
Wow.
exploitive.
No kidding.
Yeah, no wonder. Yeah, no wonder. Like most of the people who worked there were like Ukrainians, so
I
people
know.
from
I did
poor,
university wrong.
poor
What do you
countries.
mean? I could have been paying somebody for this shit. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Ugh.
and I watched who were like authors, writers from what countries they were, and they were like mostly from third world like countries,
Yeah.
because for that pay, it's nobody will in the West like work for that pay, maybe a student or something,
Yeah.
but. Yeah. So maybe writing something is not such a bad idea. Actually, it was published in a book. They like American, I think. Yeah, I think he was like an American writer who lived for some time in Kharkiv, in
Mm.
Ukraine, and he was like very like disturbed by what was happening to the city. He saw himself, right, and
Yep.
he lived here for a while. So he decided to publish a book with like many different poets and Ukrainian like writers and people who like describing their experience, like, and it's a combination of I think 20 stories from different people, and one of them is mine, and they published it I think already. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like a 3 pages or something, so not that big, but my part is 3 pages, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's it been like being
yeah.
kind of thrust into like social media presence? I'm even like I'm just seeing in chat and how many people are just like obsessing and basically have waifued you. Or do you know what a waifu is? I don't know.
Unfortunately, I know.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
we,
yeah. Where it's like they're not even like that. Not there's not a lot of people even like sexualizing you. They're just like they're just like
yeah, I know.
goddess tier, you know, where they're like
Yeah,
she's too incredible to even sexualize. She's just goddess goddess Anna is what I've seen a fair bit. What has that been like? Just being thrust into social media and talking to Cooper for like 5 times in a row and shoot, your mic cut out again. Yeah. No. Maybe just do the yeah, exactly.
did this fix anything?
It fixed it. Yeah.
Good. If you in doubt, just turn the thing off. So, yeah. So, I did not know he was famous. Actually, I was that famous. I mean, so
Yeah.
I talked to him like a regular dude. Then I figured out he was pretty like a Brad Pitt level of famous in media sphere. So
Mm. Hmm,
pretty
hmm.
chill. Kind and all. So nice to talk with him a
Yeah.
bit like behind the scenes as well. So
Yeah.
um, Yeah, but this social media stuff is pretty weird because I was not a social media person at all. I did
Hmm.
not use like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, nothing.
Yep.
So I was only had Telegram chats, but with my real life friends.
Yep.
So like no, not like
I feel you. I
random.
was never on social media until literally I started doing this, so I totally understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like not only inept in terms of this all this stuff. I discovered like political YouTube exists like in the middle of war basically.
Yep.
So I saw like I was interested in seeing how people cover Ukraine. So I saw CNN, Fox News, ugh, that one. But I saw like a lot of stuff, and then I discovered Hassan, of course, which was also an interesting experience. Let's put it like that.
Yep.
And yeah, and then other people as well. So like Steven, and I really liked what he's like very great in terms of debate and coverage about Ukraine. He was very what he's saying was pretty much very factually correct,
Hmm.
and so I was like very hyped about that.
Hmm.
Also found some other people like Adam something is his name.
Hmm.
He's a Hungarian, I think, person who makes essays, pretty good essays on Ukraine for people who's not Ukrainian. He was pretty like 95% like correct on everything, which is also pretty cool.
Yep.
And I found Wash as well, who was one of the leftists who covered the
Hmm.
Ukraine in a non like pro-Russian way, which was nice, I guess. And as despite I disagreed with some parts, like his attitude towards Azov, towards like very pretty much dismiss the lives of the people who are very right, far right, but who defend this country with their literal bodies right now, and who
Mm.
we consider heroes, and people who defenders of Mariupol, who was stuck in that factory Azovstal, if you heard of it, for like months, and they did the impossible. They literally protected every single one of us and did not allow Russia to move forward.
Yeah.
So for him to say to dismiss them and say they fuck them, they can die, I don't care, like put the guns in their mouths and kill themselves because they're like apparently far right, too far right for him. So for that I didn't like, but the rest of it was pretty good, and he was very like compassionate and all. He also was pretty hard on the leftists who are like pro-Russian, and he critiqued them pretty thoroughly, and he showed his support very clear. So that
Hmm.
was nice. I watched some of his stuff on Ukraine. But yeah, so I discovered that this such a thing like political YouTube even exists, and I started to like watch a little bit, just out of interest. But this whole like memes and shit, I'm like completely unaware of all of that. So people would send me like stuff about Steven, some crazy people that would come up and write me emails of how Destiny is like the worst person in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
And like emails like that, and they're just so strange and weird. These people, I just come on. I told him like on the last time we talked that he seems to be more banned than a terrorist would. So some terrorists like have less bans on them in Twitter and like stuff, like than he does. So yeah, so I am fully convinced that his DGGers, like his community and Taliban, as they call themselves, cutie pies. So I will not be swayed other way. I love them for the help they did an amazing thing. Truly, they just
I
let
think
us.
I've never heard anyone describe the Taliban as cutie pies in the same sentence. That is a
Cutie
unique moment. They I hope
I
somebody
told him
clips that so that they can get a new sound of you saying
I,
DGG is
I
cutie pies.
I think it's been like maybe clipped. I'm not sure. It's not the first time I'm saying it. I'm like convinced they're cutie pies. So um, it, they have been really cool to me, and yeah. So I appreciate that, and most of all, of course, I will be like literally grateful for the rest of my days for the for how long that may be for Stephen, and he allowed me to be like on his platform and his community that donated a crazy amount that allowed us to buy a fucking quad bike, buy like power banks, medical supplies. I donated to the drone army to buy drones. I donated to Come Back Alive, a fundraiser that helps our soldiers. So a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and. it's upped my ability to help Ukraine, which all is there doing. So
Mm.
yeah, so for me, like some silly shit they send me, like people who hate him, like about him saying some offensive shit, it doesn't matter in the slightest to me. So maybe like when I be a privileged Westerner myself, I will live in a country that when people get severely offended by every fucking little thing, then maybe I will reconsider my position. But right now, I'm super grateful, and I haven't seen anything bad from them as of yet. So at least to me, for so fuck everyone else, I guess.
Yeah, nothing
I'm not,
nothing reorganizes your priorities like literal life and
yeah,
death every day. It makes you kind of
I'm not.
take things into
I'm not gonna.
account.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like waste my time. I don't have it right now to research some shit about that people send me. There's just no point. And yeah, also I really appreciate just everything basically
Mhm.
he did. So up to the point, not in only like talking to me, but coverage of Ukraine. I saw some debates he did about Ukraine as well. So
Yeah.
that was excruciating, of course, because everything the opposition was saying was entirely incorrect. Like 99% of it just falsehood, repeated Russian propaganda word for word, and it was pretty frustrating to hear it in English. Things you heard like for 8 years of your life in Russian, now you hear in English.
Mhm.
Interesting. Yeah, but it just shows the reach, I guess. It's pretty insane how much like Russian propaganda has a grab on like societies all over the world.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think we finally are winning in this war as well. So informational war, like most people, not crazies on the internet, but actual real life people seem to support us in the West.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think we won that front as well, I guess.
Yeah, it's super
Um,
interesting to see like the alt-right in North America giving Russian talking points while they claim that like Marxist Leninist type people have taken over certain institutions. And it's like it is possible that both of these things are true at the same time, obviously. It's an
yeah,
interesting dichotomy to kind of witness like live firsthand.
actually, the very like far left people, far right people have the exactly same points on Ukraine.
Mhm.
They should, unite,
Yeah.
hold hands and sing Kumbaya, I think, which they suggest we do with Russians, but not going to happen, I guess.
Yeah.
It's
It's a little
hard to hold hands with people who want you dead.
and
So
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
yeah, kind of not easy to hold hands with people whose whole goal right now is to exterminate Ukrainian identity, culture, language, and just not the best time
Yeah,
to hold hands.
with a group that has historically taken you over, genocided you, famined
Mm,
you, just replaced your
not, yep,
population with others, you know. Yeah.
yep. So, people don't know that much, I guess. But some do. Some just paid Russian, basically, propagandists. Some are just crazy because America bad is their entire ideology, and everything that supposedly opposes the Americas, they just, United States or like the West in general, they're like, that's good. Even if it's fucking North Korea or Russia, they will still, um, try to excuse those war crimes, juicy war crimes, and talk to you. What about Iraq? And you're like, what about it? I mean, I know what about it, but
Yeah.
just it has nothing to do with this situation, is what I mean. It's not like to say that what United States did in Iraq is good in any way. Not, of course not. But it's just doesn't have anything to do with this current situation. And um, yeah, so it's been a bit crazy, and I try to not get into those Twitter fights, mostly because I don't have like the time for it and the energy to waste on those people as
Don't
well.
waste
Just
on it.
block the motherfuckers. Yeah, yeah. So if they do some legit criticism or like good faith, like critique of something I said, then that's one thing. Like if they want to engage, if they want to ask questions, even if those questions are offensive to me, I will still respond and talk with them. But it is just like straight up Russian propaganda, Ukraine is not a country stuff, then I will not, like waste time on that.
Yeah. That's
But
super fair.
overall, it's been a bit crazy, I guess. I'm trying to learn the memes. So like Destiny is a girl's name, I know. And this whole amazing stuff, amazing that thing. I know
Amazing.
that as well. Yeah, yeah. So I know that. I also know like with the little liar dude moment Hassan performed, and yeah. So some stuff, but some stuff is still a mystery to me. And I actually find it cute that some of the DJers are like, don't like go there, just please remain like pure and untainted by this whole idiotic like internet drama that is not worth that worth of your time.
Yeah.
And some of them are trying to explain to me, like in the simplest terms, what is going on. I actually had this person, I think DDG World is their like nickname, and they actually write all the time to me, like to try to explain to me this the drama, like in the simplest like terms.
Hmm.
And they're my literally my guide in the world of internet bullshit. So if I don't understand something, they like just appear out of nowhere and explain stuff to me in like a simple way, so I can understand something, I guess. Yeah, but I spent some time like with Dylan in Kharkiv. He was
Hmm.
like, I said asked him if he wanted to save money and stay in my apartment in Kharkiv, because he lost a lot of money because of his what he did here. So his channel is not as doing as good as it did because people want some bullshit like screaming matches, he said, and not the journalist work he does right now.
Yeah.
So I would very much like urge people to support him, and to because he's doing great work. He's showing stories of people that nobody would hear of otherwise.
Yeah.
So we like interviewed some elderly gentleman in destroyed the Saltivka area in Kharkiv, and who will like interview this old man who lost entire apartment or his life, or his his life was ruined basically, and who will like tell this story. Nobody, literally.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is very great, and he's genuine in what he does. So I'd say that he deserves way more support than he gets. So yeah, and I would consider him a friend for sure.
Hmm.
I uh, wait to meet him again in January if he returns. He said he will, and yeah, I think he got a little bit attached to Ukraine as well and to the people he met. So yeah, uh, he I call him Dylan Bernsenko, which is Bernsenko is his name, Burns, but in the like Ukrainian way. So I made his surname sound Ukrainian,
Yeah.
basically. The best thing I could came up with, unfortunately. Hard to make Burns into Ukrainian surname. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I also like nicknamed him Brave Cinnamon Roll, and people call him like that all the
A
time.
brave cinnamon
He
roll.
told, yeah, he is. He's like a cinnamon roll, but brave one. Yeah.
Because he's so sweet.
Yes, he's very like kind of gentle kind person, but at the same time he's like can be a little bit feisty as well, and he's like brave enough to come here and to risk his life to go to the front lines to endanger himself, and yeah, and I think that's he's a cinnamon roll, but a brave one.
Hmm. A brave
So
cinnamon
yeah,
roll and cutie pies.
yep,
There's a lot of
yeah.
pastry. There's a lot of pastryism going on here.
I love sweets. What can I say?
Yeah. Anyone else
Yeah.
that you're
So
talking to in the near future that people can look out for?
I think, oh shit, I forgot the name. So I talked to this cool Australian dude from Drinking Deep Drinks podcast. His name is David McDonald, and his friend is going to talk to me tomorrow. Actually,
Okay.
his name is Michael, but I forgot like the name. I will like maybe post it on Twitter or something. I forgot the entire name. So yeah, and I think maybe I actually contacted Vosh to talk with him because his community told me that he will be willing to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of not sure about that, but he answered me in like an email and told me he has like some troubles with his channel right now. He needs to fix, and then we can talk. So
Yeah.
maybe I will like talk with him in the future if he does not forget about me. If he does, well, it's not that like I understand the busy person and everything. So
I'm
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 like
sure
surprised
he
people want.
I'm sure he'll want to talk to you. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I'm pretty sure that people have better things to do when to talk with people like with little to no internet presence. So maybe I'm honestly like strange that Steven like decided to even like talk to with me because you know. he's kind of big, in the internet sphere, and he had he could talk with anyone else, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but we made stickers with the Destiny's logo,
Yeah.
like from his
On the
community,
quad.
with like yellow, yeah, and blue, and also Dylan's like logo as well. So
Nice.
yeah, I even made my soldier friend Bogdan and my volunteer friend Igor to say GGG for life on camera.
That's
They
amazing.
like didn't understood shit, like what they saying and what does it mean, but it's on the internet now, like literally. And yeah, so people like cutting carrots with that vegetable cutter we bought for the volunteer who cook for the soldiers,
Yeah.
and they were like, thank you Steven and Dylan, and it's so kind of fun to see them like talk about YouTubers,
Yeah.
well, they cut carrots in the vegetable cutters in
Yeah.
Kharkiv.
Yeah.
Kind of strange, but kind of cute as well, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's so
love
cool.
my DGGers,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I will die on this hill that they are cutie pies, and
They are
yeah.
cute. I've recently been spending more and more time in the DGG subreddit, which is full of degeneracy, but also just so funny. It's so funny. I have to stop because I'll spend hours in it just reading it and just laughing because it's not even like the post. It'll be like comment threads of just like the dumb shit
Yeah.
that they think to like the things that people in DGG think to respond to like random Reddit comments just like crack me up every time. Um,
They write some really funny stuff
they
in the
do.
comments, like in my Twitter. Yeah, and I actually enjoy them a lot because they're not like constipated in terms of humor, So yeah, the jokes are funny to me. So
Yeah.
I feel like Western people are very afraid to be like offensive and to,
Yes.
and they're like very uh lukewarm, like in terms of humor, so I told it actually that to the community, that to Steven doesn't seem like an American to me. I don't know how to explain it, but when I talk to him, it seems like I'm talking like someone from Eastern Europe,
Mm,
so in a sense, like he's not like what you typically expect from an American or the Western person on the internet. At least, like, I don't know how in real life people are probably way different than they are in the internet. Like, but in I
yeah.
talk with Americans mostly in the like internet sphere, right? So online,
You're
and
meaning the worst
yeah,
ones. Oh no.
yeah. So he's very like to me, talking to him feels like very homey, like talking with a Eastern European person maybe, so not like Westerner.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's strange, but because of
Yeah.
American.
Yeah, you
But
have to like tone police when you're talking with like North Americans on like media and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super annoying.
So yeah, but really like lovely talking to you, and
Hmm.
I appreciate the conversation a lot. I talked about some things I have not talked at all with anyone, like on the internet, I guess. So
Good.
some more like intimate stuff, like emotional stuff,
Yeah.
and really appreciate it, and thank you, I guess, for being interested in talking with me at all. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
super
absolutely.
grateful.
Keep in touch. Let me know how you're doing. If you need any resources, obviously I'll be promoting your stuff. I don't have as big of a
Thank
following
you.
as Steven, so I don't know what money we can garner up for you. But obviously I've been running your shit.
Yes,
Could you remind people if they weren't at the beginning, how they can support you?
I would like to point out that that's not why I'm talking to you. So
No, I
you
know that's not why you're talking to me, but I just like
so
the little bits we can
yeah,
do, right?
yeah, but I'm grateful for sure. So thank you. And so I would like people who have not like heard in the beginning. So I do some volunteer work, and I buy medical aids, supplies for our army, like power vest, bulletproof vest, protective gear, shoes, all sorts of shit they need to, to be as well dressed and well fed and well well looked after as we can possibly make them. So our soldiers are not eating canned dog shit, dog food like Russians are. So we are doing everything to, show how much we care for them because
Mhm.
they care for us, and it's like a mutually they defend us, we defend them, as I say.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so if you want to maybe like support this effort, and you can see stuff I already bought on Twitter and my work, and also there is like a PayPal link to in my bio in Twitter, and you can, if you're able, don't like send me last money to me, please, just be careful. But if you are able to, I would appreciate it. If not, just maybe like say hi on Twitter or something. And yeah, and
Message you, tell you about how you must be traumatized, and then offer to talk to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
nice that one. I got some great emails as well, not gonna lie. So some of them were like pretty cute,
Yeah.
but a lot of them were pretty strange as well. But
I believe it. You're talking to this is as a fellow. I'm no longer a normie. I think I fully adjusted into the internet world. But yeah, the first couple of months being in internet land was some of the messages you get. You're just like, what? Like,
yeah,
why are you talking about my butt sweat? Like, why are you doing this? It's such a strange thing to
that's
do.
yeah. But that's honestly the amount of after I was on CNN, people found me like on Facebook, and the amount of dick pics I got. Oh,
Are you because you said you're LGBT? Are you lesbian or are you bi?
yeah, bye, yeah,
You're
bye, yeah.
bi. Okay. Okay.
So I've seen some dicks, but
Nobody appreciates
not
dick pics. I was just wondering if like because it's especially it's always weird like on the internet like especially like there's a lot of like lesbian political commentators that get like
yeah,
constantly hounded by men and I'm like literally no. But yeah, okay.
yeah,
No, not that anyone wants
yeah.
fucking dick pics in general, random dick pics. But
Sadly, none of them were even like good ones.
like
So
no outfits because every now and then you'll get a dick pic where it's like the dick's like in a little outfit and you're like, you know,
no, nobody was that creative,
damn.
and also the dicks were sad as well, mostly. So
Oh, you hear that? Somebody's listening to this and they're just like, oh, just broke their little heart.
yeah. Yeah, well, they kind of deserve it because like I
Yes,
feel
they
for
do.
your country. Sorry, your dad died. Here's my dick pic. I mean, kind of weird, I say. So yeah,
It didn't cover you, didn't like, the panacea of dick pics. Just solve all
yeah,
your
yeah.
problems. All
Also,
right.
I forgot to mention that your name is pretty cool. I really like it.
Oh, thanks.
It's like
Not so
not
erudite.
so erudite.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have the word. It's erudite in we say it, so that we know the word. It's like scholarly, like a person educated on a certain like topic, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and yeah, so I found it like kind of funny that it's not so. So if someone tells you like you're not that educated, basically not that smart, and you can, well, it's not so, right?
Yep. That is exactly
you
why.
can
Yep.
you can backtrack, I think.
Yeah.
Smart.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
So
Yeah. There's
yeah,
lots of
thank you.
not so themed insults you can throw at me. It's just super fun too.
Mm.
Not so themed digs are my favorite. So
Yeah. So yeah, maybe if I don't get like lost in this whole internet space, I will learn some new memes, and maybe people actually are so like hyped when I say some like memes unintentionally. I actually said amazing like couple times, but I did not know about the amazing thing. And people like losing their shit like in the chat about that. So yeah, and yeah, I did not know the origin of the Destiny is a girl's name, and I still said it because people ask me to like they say you should acknowledge that Destiny is a girl's name. And I
yes,
was like, well, the will of the people, right? So they want me to say it, so like I will say it. And I like didn't know that it was like this huge thing.
the
And
huge meme.
yeah, kind of fun actually in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I
memes
think
are
I
fun.
should like go
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, and
I'll maybe
yeah.
bug you in a couple months and see if you're still around and if you want to chat and catch us up.
Mm. You can if you want like something specific to talk about, you can like bag me anytime. And
Hmm.
honestly, I can figure something out. And yeah, if I'm able to, I will. If
Okay.
maybe something interesting comes up to mind you want to maybe talk about, then just message me, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you
Thank you.
again for
Appreciate it. Yeah.
talking.
Thanks for coming
Yeah,
on. I really appreciate you giving me your time.
yeah. Bye everyone,
Okay.
and the dog. Bye as well.
Yep. She's gone, but
The little dog.
yep.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye. Okay. It's just me again. All right. Thank you, everyone who is here. I have on YouTube, you'll see that the link to her Twitter is pinned. So you can just click there, and on her Twitter, there's her PayPal email if you're wanting to send money. If you are on YouTube, I've been posting it regularly. So I will post it again right now. Thank you for the DGGers who stopped by to watch the interview. Let's post this a couple more times. I'm going to go get lunch. So I will probably be back tonight to stream, but I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to go eat. So that's probably going to be all for me. For those of you who subbed during the show, I think there was about 10 of you in total. There's 4, but I had to restart my count in the middle of it because I hadn't restarted it before. Thank you for the subs. I think I saw a $10. Don't know. I just want to make sure I thank the people who are donating. Let's see. I know I saw one. Yeah, $10. What does Anastastia think of Alexander Usyk? I heard he was once a controversial figure in Ukraine. I'm sorry, Black Panther, that I did not read that and respond. Another 99. Anastasia, I have a 2-week-old daughter. I've been telling her your stories every night. Sorry for your dad. Glory for Ukraine. Freedom from Cuba. Okay. I think that's all from today. So yeah, thank you for all the support, but more importantly, make sure if you're wanting to support, if you're just itching, to drop some not dick pics but dollars, make sure you go to her Twitter link. I know that she wasn't on to grub for money, but I think that would be obviously a good thing for us to do. So thanks for the interview. Have a great lunch. Go to Ukraine, and all of the weird. I think there's one looks like a Leninist who's just leaning on caps lock in my chat. Good job. Also, read about the Holodomor before you start screaming at me. And Jerry's, both of you, please don't send Anna dick pics. Don't do it. I don't know if you have, but please don't. Did you get good entries for your merch contest? Oh, thank you. We have 1 day left for the merch contest. You can enter it. It is on my Twitter. It is pinned right now. You can submit. We've had some pretty good submissions. You can also email your submissions to me, and I'll just forward them to my head merchandiser at notsoerudite2022@gmail.com. And the winning artist will get a percentage of all sales from the merch that has their design on it. We're probably going to make a t-shirt, a tank top, and we're thinking about maybe doing a crop top as well, or a long sleeve. So I have you haven't trust me. I have you haven't trust me. Screaming. I'm going to make homemade Rubons for dinner. Peace and love. But what about the clown? What about clown costume dick pics? Save those for people who want them. Josie, you are funny. Josie is funny. I only learned about it too late. No, there's still 1 day. You can still submit it. And then we're going to collect it, and then we're going to do a public vote next week sometime. So we'll vote on the merch. So Nidstang Monolith, you still have time. You can submit until tomorrow. And the reality is if you submit and it's a really good submission, you submit it on the 22nd, we're still going to take it, obviously, because merch. So you can still submit for merch. Remember, submitting merch is on Twitter, pinned on my profile, or you can submit it to my email at notsoerudite2022@gmail.com. All right. As always, big hugs, big kisses. Thanks for being here. I'm going to raid you guys out. Twitch, where would you like to go? Let's see. Let's raid to Chud. You're going to Chuddy. Off you guys go. Wish him my best. Tell him the trash goblins are in the house. I think he's watching The Crucible, so you get to suffer through that. Enjoy. YouTube. I'll probably just redirect you to the D-Man, if that's okay with you. I think he's on, so I suspect he's on, probably. Oh, wait, is he still at that thing? LibertyCon? Oh, look it. Playing with Fire's on. There you go. No, they're not. All right, whatever. Off you go. Oh, look at that nice picture.